Anybody can yell, anybody can argue. Not everybody can hold their tongue. Next time your anger boiling, next time your pride screaming at you to respond, ask yourself, what's the price? What do I lose if I let this moment control me? What do I protect if I stay silent? Because that silence, that one choice could save your career, your relationship, your reputation, your freedom, and most importantly, your peace. That's the kind of strength we need. That's the kind of discipline that separates the ones who keep climbing from the ones who fall off. So learn to master it, learn to hold it, learn to trust that silence is not weakness, silence is power. Everybody know that one circle where all they do is tear others down. You walk in the room and the air feel heavy, like the only way they know how to bond is by breaking somebody else apart. And here's the truth. If they gossip to you, they gonna gossip about you. Don't ever fool yourself thinking you're safe because you sit on the inside. If somebody shows you they use their tongue to drag another person, understand they're gonna use that same tongue when your back is turned. That's just how it works. And silence is your shield in those moments. It keeps you clean when everything around you is messy. See, a lot of people get caught up thinking gossip is harmless. They think it's small talk, entertainment, just conversation. But gossip is poison. It spreads slow at first, but it contaminates everything it touches. You can lose friends, lose respect, lose opportunities over words that ain't even belong to you. People don't separate who said what. They only remember who was standing there when it got said. And when you stay silent, when you don't contribute, when you refuse to add fuel to the fire, you protect yourself from being tied to that negativity. Think about it. How many times has somebody's name been ruined not because of what they did, but because of what people said about them? You can build a reputation for years, and a rumor can tear it down in weeks. Look at the internet today. One story go viral, whether it's true or not, and the world runs with it. By the time the truth catches up, the damage already done. That's the power of gossip. And you don't need your name in that kind of dirt. You don't need that energy following you. In corporate spaces, in workplaces, in teams, gossip is even deadlier. Studies show gossip is the #1 killer of workplace trust. And that's not just a statistic. You can feel it when you walk into a company where gossip runs wild. Nobody trusts each other. Nobody feels safe. Everybody looking over their shoulder, wondering who's talking about them when they step out the room. And the crazy thing, you might think joining in makes you part of the group, makes you accepted, but the truth is the opposite. The moment you open your mouth to add to gossip, you lose credibility because people realize if you talk about somebody else, you talk about them too. But when you keep silent, when you refuse to participate, people notice that too. They might not say it out loud, but in the back of their minds, they register. You're different. You don't play in the mud. And that makes people trust you more. That makes people respect you more because in a world where everybody chasing attention, everybody desperate to have something to say, being the one who knows when to stay quiet, that's rare, that's powerful. I've seen it with my own eyes. I've been in rooms where people with real money, real influence, real opportunities were deciding who to bring into their circle. And you know what disqualified people quicker than lack of talent? Loose lips. They say, nah, I can't trust him, you talk too much, you carry stories. That right there shut the door before the conversation even started. And that person might not even know why they didn't get the call back, why the meeting never came, why the deal fell through. It was because somebody caught them gossiping. On the flip side, I've seen people rise just off reputation. People saying, she don't talk bad about nobody. He don't repeat what he hear. If he knows something, it stays with him. And that kind of reputation, that's gold. That's worth more than money. Because money can open doors, but trust keeps those doors open. And silence builds trust in a way gossip never can. Now let's bring it closer to home.
Think about friendships. Where the hell you
gossip
at?
will
Push
destroy
up.
a friend group faster than anything. One person venting to another, that story gets twisted, spread to a third, and by the time it circles back, it's a full-on war. Relationships break, bonds shatter, people stop speaking over words that shouldn't have been shared in the first place. If you've ever been caught in the middle of that, you know how painful it is. And you also know how much peace there is in choosing not to participate. Choosing silence keeps you from carrying the weight of words that don't belong to you. I'll give you an example.
Get up there, bro. Stop.
I knew a girl who was always surrounded by drama. Every time I saw her, she had a new story about somebody who was doing what, who said what, who couldn't be trusted. At first, it seemed like she was just in the know, like she always had the inside scoop. But over time, people stopped confiding in her. Nobody told her their real plans. Nobody trusted her with personal stuff because they knew it wouldn't stay with her. And eventually she found herself isolated, not because she was a bad person, but because she couldn't keep quiet. Silence could have saved her relationships, but she didn't value it. And that's what I need you to understand. Gossip don't just hurt the person being talked about, it hurts the person doing the talking. It robs you of respect. It robs you of peace. It robs you of credibility. And in the long run, credibility is worth more than clout. Silence, on the other hand, builds something solid. It tells people, I can trust you, I can build with you, I can let you in on things and not worry about it being thrown back in my face. That's how you get chosen for opportunities. That's how you get called into bigger rooms. Not because you loud, but because you quiet. Because you can be trusted with silent. In the deeper lesson, gossip reveals character. When you refuse to participate, you show people you value integrity. You show people you don't need to tear others down to feel strong. You show people you move different. And trust me, the world notices. Even when you think nobody paying attention, they watching how you handle yourself. They watching if you feed the fire or if you let it die in silence. So yeah, everybody knows that one circle where all they do is tear others down, but you don't have to sit in that circle. You don't have to add your words to the pile. You don't have to let that negativity stick to you. Protect your name, protect your energy, protect your future by mastering the art of silence. When you stay quiet around gossip, you don't just save yourself from drama, you show the world what kind of person you really are. When you step into a room full of people who know more than you, silence is a weapon of growth. Too many people walk into new spaces thinking they gotta prove themselves right away. Like, if they don't speak, they'll disappear. But the truth is, the most dangerous thing you can do in a room like that is talk too much. You can't learn if you're too busy talking. You can't soak up wisdom if you're rushing to show off what you already know. Sometimes the smartest thing you can say is nothing at all. Picture this for a second. You got an opportunity to sit at a table with people who've already done what you dream about doing. People who've already made the mistakes, paid the cost, seen the ups and downs. Now you can either spend that moment talking, trying to impress them, trying to prove you belong, or you could shut up, listen, and take in knowledge that could shortcut years off your journey. Think about that. Every minute you spend talking about yourself is a minute you could have been learning how to take yourself further. I read once that Warren Buffett spends 80% of his day reading, not talking. Think about that. One of the wealthiest men alive, a man who built an empire, spends most of his time listening and learning. If silence can build a billionaire, what you think it can do for you? That silence is discipline. It's saying, I don't need to be the loudest voice. I'd rather be the one who leaves the room smarter than when I walked in. But ego gets in the way, pride gets in the way. We want to prove we belong, prove we're smart, prove we got value. We forget that real value don't come from being the loudest. It comes from being the sharpest. And you can't sharpen yourself if you never stop talking long enough to hear the blade hit the stone. Silence in those moments means you humble enough to listen, humble enough to absorb, humble enough to position yourself to level up. Let me tell you a story. There was a young dude who got invited to a meeting with some heavy hitters in the industry he wanted to be in. He was excited, nervous, ready to show he deserved a seat at that table. He walked in and started talking, telling his ideas, his plans, his opinions, thinking that's how he'd get respect. But when the meeting ended, one of the older men pulled him aside and said, son, you talk so much, you didn't leave space for us to give you what you really came here for. That hit him, because he realized he had been so busy trying to shine that he blocked the very light he needed to grow. Now compare that with another story. A different young man walked into a similar room, but instead of trying to take the floor, he sat back, took notes, asked a few thoughtful questions, and listened. Months later, one of the leaders called him back for a big opportunity. When asked why, the man said, because you came to learn, not to show off. That told me you were ready for growth. You see the difference? Same opportunity, two different results. The one who stayed silent walked away with more than the one who tried to dominate the room. This applies everywhere, in business meetings, in classrooms, in mentorships, even in casual conversations with people more experienced than you. Silence is how you position yourself for growth. You can't be too proud to listen. You can't be so desperate to prove yourself that you miss the wisdom that could change your life. Here's something deeper. People respect silence. When you walk into a room and you don't rush to fill the air, people notice. They start to wonder what you're thinking. They start to value your words more when you do speak, because they know you're not just talking to talk. They know you took time to listen first. And when your words finally come, they carry more weight. That's influence. That's power. Look at how leaders move. The best leaders don't do the most talking. They do the most listening. They know they don't have all the answers. They surround themselves with people smarter than them, and they let those voices be heard. They use silence as a tool to make better decisions, to build stronger teams, to create bigger visions. And that all comes from the humility of knowing you don't learn nothing new when you're the one always speaking. Silence in bigger rooms also teaches you patience. It teaches you to wait for your moment. Every room has its own rhythm, its own flow. And when you're silent, you can study it. You can see who holds the real power, who influences the decisions, who people really listen to. You can observe dynamics that you would miss if you were too busy trying to be the center of attention. That awareness, that's priceless, because once you understand the game, you can move smarter within it. I've seen people blow opportunities because they didn't understand this. They thought being invited into the room meant it was time to take over. But sometimes being invited into the room means it's time to learn how the room operates.
I just didn't
Silence gives you that chance. Silence gives you clarity. Silence shows you not just how to play, but how to win. And don't get it twisted. Silence don't mean you don't speak at all. It means you choose to wait until you listen, until you understand, until you see the full picture. When you finally speak, you speak with precision, you speak with weight. You speak in a way that shifts the room, because you weren't just talking, you were calculating. Think about chess. The strongest players don't rush to make moves. They study the board, they watch their opponent, they calculate 5 steps ahead. Silence in a room bigger than you is the same thing. It's strategy, it's positioning. It's making sure when you make your move, it counts.
Yeah.
Let me leave you with this thought.
Appreciate the follow. What up, Drake?
Every great speaker is once a listener. Every great leader is once a follower. You don't skip steps. And
I was just talking to Peyton and his mama yesterday about you. They was just up here. We were just politicking about you, bro. How everything been?
And really, silence is what makes them powerful. Because while everybody else is making noise, you're making progress. While everybody else is talking, you're learning. While everybody else is trying to impress, you're preparing to surpass. So the next time you walk into a room that feels bigger than you, don't be afraid of that feeling, embrace it. That room is your classroom, that room is your training ground, and the way you pass the test ain't by talking the most, it's by listening the deepest. Stay silent, stay humble, stay open. Because silence in the right room can be the key that unlocks everything you've been working for. There's no need to argue with someone who already made up their mind about you. That's wasted energy.
Yeah,
that's
man,
like
we gotta get back in, man.
Everything
been everything,
no matter how good the picture is,
I gotta send you an invitation for my party.
They ain't looking at open
on the 13th, September 13th.
And that's the thing about people.
Hopefully you can make it. I'll shoot it to you though when I get through with this.
It don't matter how many points you try to prove. They already shut the door in their minds. So why stand there banging on it, trying to force your way through? Your value is never theirs to give you. See, too often we fall into the trap of thinking we got to explain ourselves to people who never wanted to understand us in the first place. We start arguing, defending, proving, when really all that does is pull us down into their level. You don't prove your value to the blind. If they can't see your worth, silence is the better answer. Silence says, I don't need your approval. Silence says, you're not my judge, you're not my measuring stick. That's louder than any clapback you can spit. And I know it's tempting. I know how it feels when somebody questions you, doubts you, talks down on you.
For sure.
Your pride
I already know, bro. You know we wanted the same.
You want to remind them who you are, what you've done, what you capable of.
I'm proud of you though, bro. I'm glad to see that growth, man.
Arguing with them don't change
going
nothing.
Up.
They not disrespecting you because they don't know better.
I told you before, you doing your thing, and we talked about it way before you even got all the way in, and you did everything you said you was gonna do. And
think about artists, creators, dreamers who came up against walls of rejection. How many legends got told no before the world finally said yes? Think about the singers who got rejected by every label, laughed out the building, told they didn't have the voice, didn't have the look, didn't have the style. They didn't waste their breath going back and forth with the ones who turned them down. They stayed silent, kept grinding, kept building, and let success make the noise. Years later, the same people who doubted them ended up watching their names light up marquees, hearing their songs on the radio, seeing their faces on magazine covers. That's the power of silence. You don't clap back at every critic. You let your results be the answer. And that ain't just for celebrities or artists. That's life. Maybe you at a job where your boss don't respect you, where no matter how hard you work, they overlook you, minimize you, try to box you in. Silence don't mean accept mistreatment. Silence means don't waste your breath begging them to see you. Put that energy into sharpening your skills, building your mind and creating your exit plan. One day you walk away, not because you argued them into respect, but because you grew into a place where their opinion don't even matter anymore.
Facts, 100%, bro, 100%. People be asking me how this shit feel doing some of the stuff I'm doing in my career, and I just tell them it feel how I knew it was gonna feel.
You could be standing right there, changing.
I know some people get
and they still treat you like the person you used to be.
Just kind of come out of nowhere and happen, but
that cuts deep.
This shit
silence in that situation is strength. It's knowing you
I was telling my client earlier, I didn't think I was gonna be doing tattoos, but I knew I was gonna be doing something.
Who you've become. Results will speak louder than any speech.
I knew it was gonna be something.
Silence don't just protect your energy, preserve your dignity. Arguing with somebody who don't respect you often makes you look smaller. It drags you into a fight that can't be won because the goalposts ain't fixed. Even if you win one argument, they'll just move the line and find another reason to dismiss you. But silence keeps you above the fray. Silence keeps your hands clean. Silence says, I'm not lowering myself to prove what I already know. I remember hearing a story about a young entrepreneur. He pitched his idea to investors who laughed him out the room. They told him it was impossible, told him he didn't have what it takes. He could have argued, could have tried to convince them, could have let his pride
he just got tatted yesterday. Him and his mom got tatted yesterday.
Went back to work, built his business piece by piece.
Years later, he got his brother initials behind his ear, and his mom got some matching,
you know what?
Same thing on her, behind her ear a little smaller. And then she got a feather on the other side. It came out super dope. I just gotta start posting more. I'll be so busy working, it'd be hard to get the content out. I know you know.
People might doubt you, dismiss you, overlook you, even try to humiliate you. But the more you argue, the more you give them power, the more you stay silent and focused.
And I appreciate you for that alley-oop,
every
bro.
hour you spend explaining yourself to a non-believer,
for real. I love being able to lock in with like lifetime clients.
Trust me, when you become undeniable,
I got that connection with
no longer emptiness.
So I appreciate you for that alley-oop,
for real. Of your results speaking on your behalf.
And I plan on doing business with them soon outside of this.
That's what silence is.
Yeah, you see the ball they playing basketball?
Waste that noise beneath you. You don't need to bark back. You don't need to prove yourself to every voice that doubts. You just keep walking.
For sure. I told him I'm gonna make that Westlake game on the 2nd. So if you up there, I'll see you then too. I told him I'm gonna try to I ain't not try, I'm gonna make that game for sure. It's Westlake homecoming. You know I'm an alumni. So I can kill two birds with one stone.
Because the truth is, respect that's forced don't last. Respect that's earned through silence and results, that can't be denied. Sometimes silence ain't about strategy, sometimes it's about your soul. It's about protecting your inner space, that place inside you where peace lives. Because peace is priceless. You can't buy it, you can't borrow it, you can't fake it. You either have it or you don't. And once you lose it, everything else starts to fall apart.
Okay, bet. It's on, bro.
Knowing not every
be safe. Hit me if you need anything. I'm gonna shoot that link to you too.
Not every situation deserves your energy. Life will test you every single day. At work, in relationships, in family, online. There's always gonna be something pulling at you, trying to get a reaction. Somebody cuts you off in traffic. Somebody at work disrespects you. Somebody online leaves a comment just to push your buttons. And the question you gotta ask yourself in those moments is simple. Do I wanna be right? Or do I wanna be free? Silence here is choosing freedom. Because peace matters more than pride. Too many of us trade peace for pointless arguments. We let little things drag us into wars that don't even serve us. A partner said something slick, and instead of letting it slide and revisit it calmly later, you jump into a shouting match that ruins the whole night. A coworker throws shade, and instead of staying focused on the bigger picture, we spend hours plotting the perfect comeback. Somebody online said something disrespectful, and instead of scrolling past, we dive into the comments like soldiers going to battle. And after all that, what do we really gain? Nothing. Just wasted time, wasted energy, and a heavy heart. Sometimes silence is the only way to keep yourself light. Silence is saying, I refuse to give my peace away that cheap. You can't buy back the hours wasted in anger. You can't buy back the energy drained by drama. Once it's gone, it's gone. And if you let every little thing steal from you, pretty soon you wake up empty. But when you learn to be silent in those moments, you keep your cup full, you keep your soul calm, you keep your spirit strong. And this ain't just emotional talk, science backs it up. Data shows that people who practice mindfulness and self-control, which often looks like silence, have lower stress, better health, and stronger resilience. Think about that. People who don't always have to argue, who don't always have to respond, who know how to be quiet and let things pass, they live longer, healthier lives, their blood pressure's lower, their sleep is better, their bodies recover faster from stress. That's not just peace of mind, that's real wealth right there. Because what good is money, success, or recognition if you're too stressed out to enjoy it? What good is being right all the time if your spirit is heavy all the time? I knew an older man once, wise, calm, the kind of person who never seemed rattled no matter what. People used to ask him how he stayed so peaceful. He said, I learned I don't have to show up to every fight I'm invited to. That hit me deep. Because life is full of invitations to fight, invitations to argue, invitations to defend yourself, invitations to clap back. But you don't have to RSVP to all of them. Most of the time, silence is your best response. Think about your relationships. Every couple has disagreements. Every friendship has friction. But the ones that last ain't the ones where people win every argument. It's the ones where people choose peace over pride. Sometimes being silent when you know you can win the point is how you keep love alive. Sometimes holding back your sharpest words is how you protect a bond. Not about weakness, it's about valuing the connection more than the ego trip. That's maturity, that's wisdom, that's love. At work too, peace is priceless. You might have a boss who rubs you the wrong way, a coworker who stays throwing shade, a client who's never satisfied. You can argue every day, defend yourself every moment, fight for every inch, and end up drained, stressed, burned out. Or you can practice silence. You can learn to let certain comments roll off your back. You can focus on your bigger goals instead of getting stuck in the mud of petty battles. And in the long run, that silence protects not just your peace, but your career. Because people notice who can stay calm under pressure. They notice who doesn't get rattled by nonsense. Silence in those moments says you're steady, dependable, grounded. That's what gets you promoted. That's what builds trust. And then there's the online world. Social media is a breeding ground for negativity. It's easy to get sucked into comment wars, to defend yourself against strangers who don't even know you, to waste hours arguing with people you'll never meet. But silence is freedom in that space. Silence says your opinion don't control my energy. Silence says I value my peace more than proving myself to a stranger. And the truth is, half the time, the person you argue with online don't even believe what they're saying. They just want attention. Don't give them your peace in exchange for their moment of entertainment. It's still about silence as it gives you space to think. It gives you room to breathe. It gives you time to ask yourself, does this really matter? Is this battle worth my peace? Most of the time, the answer is no. And once you learn to choose peace consistently, you start moving different. You start chasing validation. You start carrying grudges. You start reacting to everything. You start living lighter, freer, happier. Peace is the foundation of everything. Without it, success feels empty. Without it, love feels shaky. Without it, life feels heavy. That's why silence is so powerful, because silence is how you protect it. Silence is how you keep the world from stealing it. Silence is how you remind yourself that freedom ain't always about where you live or how much money you make. Sometimes freedom is just about not letting every little thing control your spirit. So the next time you're tempted to argue, tempted to clap back, tempted to defend yourself in a battle that don't really matter, pause. Remember, your peace is priceless. Remember, silence is freedom. And ask yourself, do I want to be right or do I want to be free? So remember, silence is not absence, it's presence. It's not weakness, it's wisdom. Every time you choose silence in these moments, you invest in your future, your peace, your legacy. Talk when it builds, stay silent when it destroys. That's how you move with purpose, that's how you move with power.
me before you go to get a video of your chest too. I want to get a heel video or picture. You think Pam look good?
For what? Oh yeah, hell yeah.
You think she look better than what's her name?
Teacher?
Yeah. Bro. Let me go, dude.
Shoot, I don't know. I like light skin women, so
yeah. It's a preference there. Yeah.
Pam is crazy.
Nah, yeah, for sure. I feel like
you ever notice how the harder you chase somebody, the further they seem to run? It's like the more you call, the less they answer. The more you show up, the less they appreciate it. That's not by accident, that's human nature. People take for granted what's always there.
Then, like,
they get comfortable with your effort. They expect your presence.
Shit like that.
They stop valuing
that Martin
your
was
energy
making her ugly.
because you
right,
get
right.
Yeah, I was making her ugly. All the shit he was talking resonates with me.
The silence hits
That's what be
different.
so crazy. Like, that's why I be trying to
All
tell
those
people about
words, all those
racism.
texts,
Like
all
this
those
with
late
black
nights you spend
people.
playing
Like,
yourself.
you
That's
can't
when they
expect
notice.
motherfuckers
That's when they rewind in their
to look
mind
at
all
us
the
a lot
things
of
you did
different
for
ways
them.
when we ain't
That's
never
when they
been able
realize
to
the
portray
gap your
ourselves
presence
because we
used to
don't control
fill.
the media.
See, chasing puts you in a position of weakness. But
Social
stepping back
media
puts the
helped out
power
a
in
lot
their
with that.
hands. It forces people to ask themselves what life feels like without you. And it forces you to recognize your own value. And once you see that value, you'll never waste your energy running after anybody again. When you stop chasing people, something powerful happens that most folks never even think about. You start to see the truth about human nature and how people value what they have. Well, see, the human mind is tricky. It's wired to overlook what's always around to get used to what feels guaranteed. That's why when you keep calling, keep checking, keep putting up, people get comfortable. They think he'll always be there, she'll always show up, I don't have to do anything. They stop noticing the weight you carry in their life, and the crazy part is, you don't even realize it while you're in it because you're too busy proving yourself, too busy chasing. You don't see that by doing all the running. You're teaching them to stand still. You're showing them they don't gotta move, they don't gotta invest, they don't gotta value your present because you're already giving it up for free. But the moment you step back, the energy shifts. At first, they might not even notice. They might think you're just quiet for a day, just busy. Then a week goes by, that phone that used to light up all the time doesn't anymore. That attention they thought was endless suddenly goes missing. And that's when the mind starts to rewind. They replay the little things you used to do. They get memories, the check-ins, the pull-ups, just to make sure they were good. They remember the laughs, the energy, the way you gave without asking for much back. They start to realize that hole isn't filled anymore, that space isn't occupied. And that's when the value kicks in, because absence has a way of shining a light on what presence could never make clear. See, when you always there, you like air, necessary but invisible. Nobody thinks about breathing until the air gets tight, until they feel the pressure of not having it. That's how presence works. If you don't give it space, if you don't step back, nobody even knows how much it meant. Absence forces awareness. It makes people sit with silence, sit with emptiness, and in that silence, they start to measure what you really brought into their world. That's when they feel the weight. That's when they miss you. It's not even about games or manipulation. It's about balance. When you chase, you throw balance off. You're giving 80, they're giving 20, and the scale tips. But when you step back, the scale resets. People have to lean in to close the gap. They have to put effort into each other. That's when the energy exchange becomes fair. Fair energy is where respect is. Respect can't grow when one side is doing all the work. It grows in the spaces where people both sides move with intention. And stepping back teaches that lesson. You don't gotta lecture somebody about your value. You don't gotta explain. You just remove your energy, and they feel it. They feel it more than anything you could have said. And here's the part a lot of people miss. It's not just about making them miss you. It's about giving yourself room to see what life feels like without chasing. Because when you're always running after others, you don't even notice how much of yourself you're draining. You don't notice how heavy it is to always be the one carrying the connection. When you stop, when you sit still, you start to breathe different. You start to see how much peace comes with not having to prove yourself every day. You start to notice your own value in a way you never could before. You see that the silence isn't just for them, it's for you too. It's a mirror. And in that mirror, you see whether they reach back, whether they step up, or whether they let you go. If they let you go, that tells you everything you need to know about the way you really
lay down, 40.
Absence is a test,
lay
not
down.
just for them, but for you. Because it takes discipline to stop chasing. It takes strength to let go of the need to be validated, the need to always be noticed. You gotta be comfortable with silence, with space, with the possibility that maybe they don't come back. That's the scary part. Most people keep chasing because they're scared of finding out the truth. Scared that without the chase, the connection doesn't exist. But that truth is freedom. It frees you from wasting time on people who never valued you, and it leaves room for those who truly do. Because the ones who care, the ones who respect you, they don't disappear in the silence. They step forward. They feel the space. They show you that your absence matters, that your presence is missed, and that they're willing to meet you where you are. That's how you separate the real from the fake, the loyal from the convenient. Think about it like this. You don't miss the noise in the room until it goes quiet. You don't miss the sunlight until it rains for days. You don't miss the water until you're thirsty. Absence sharpens appreciation. It forces perspective. And when people start to miss you, that's not just about them needing you back in their life. It's about them finally realizing the truth you already knew. That your presence carried weight, that your energy made things brighter, smoother, better. The chase blinded them to that truth. The absence made it clear. So when you stop chasing, you're not just pulling away from people, you're pulling away from weakness, you're pulling away from imbalance, you're pulling away from a cycle that drains you. And in doing so, you become magnetic because people are drawn to strength. They're drawn to someone who knows their value and doesn't hand it out for free. They're drawn to someone who can walk away without fear. Someone who understands that sometimes silence speaks louder than words. That magnetism is different from chasing. Chasing says, I need you. Magnetism says, I'm good regardless, but if you want to step into this energy, you better recognize what it is. That's the power of absence. That's why when you stop chasing, they start missing you. When you out here chasing people, what you don't always realize is that you're trading away your power piece by piece. Every call unanswered, every text left unread, every favor done without being returned. Those are small cuts to your self-worth. You might not feel it at first because you're convincing yourself that effort equals loyalty, that consistency equals love, that showing up for them will eventually make them see your value. But deep down, you know the truth. The more you chase, the more you shrink. Because chasing flips the energy. It puts you in the position of needing while they sit in the position of choosing. And the one who needs is always at a disadvantage. Power lives in balance. When both sides move toward each other with respect, there's power in that. But when one side is constantly reaching and the other is leaning back, the power shifts. It's no longer about connection, it's about survival. You start depending on their response for your sense of worth, and that's a dangerous game to play. Because self-worth can't be borrowed, can't be built on somebody else's validation. The moment you hand over your power like that, you're saying how you treat me decides how I feel about myself. That's weakness disguised as loyalty. That's how people lose themselves while trying to hold on to someone else. The truth is, self-worth is the foundation of everything. It's the engine that drives how people treat you, how opportunities come to you, how respect follows you. If you don't see your own value, don't expect the world to hand it back to you. People mirror the way you carry yourself. If you move like you need them more than they need you, they'll start to believe it. They'll stop showing up with effort because they feel like you'll take whatever they give. That's how power gets lost, not because they're stronger than you, but because you're giving your strength away willingly, piece by piece, every time you chase. But the moment you step back and decide, I know what I bring to the table, I don't need to beg for a seat, the energy flips. That's when power comes back to you, because you're no longer waiting for someone else to confirm your value. You're standing on it, you're rooted in it, and people can feel that. They can feel the difference between someone chasing and someone choosing. Chasing says, please notice me. Choosing says, I notice myself. And if you want to be part of that movement, respect. That energy commands respect in a way chasing never could. And understand this, power isn't about control over others. It's about control over yourself. The person who controls their emotions, their reactions, their attention, That's the one who's really powerful. Chasing takes that control away because you're moving off their rhythm. You're waiting for their call, their reply, their validation. They move, you move. That's not power, that's dependency. But when you step back and decide you're not going to give that kind of access to your peace, you shift from chasing to attracting. You're not running after, you're letting things align with you. You're showing that your time and your energy are valuable. And if someone wants access, they have to meet the standard. That's what power looks like. It's the same way in business, in relationships, and friendships, everywhere. If you're always chasing clients, chasing opportunities, chasing attention, you look desperate, and desperation lowers value. But when you stand firm, when you move like you're already valuable, people come to you differently. They respect your time more. They approach with caution instead of comfort. They recognize that if they don't bring something to the table, they don't get to eat with you. And that's the thing, your self-worth sets the price. You can either undervalue yourself by chasing, or you can raise the bar by knowing what you deserve. Now here's the hard part. Choosing self-worth over chasing is not easy. It feels lonely at first, because chasing gives you little scraps of attention, little moments of validation, and when you stop, you're cutting yourself off from those scraps. You sit in silence, and silence feels heavy if you're used to noise. But that silence is where power grows. That's where you build yourself back up. That's where you remind yourself of everything you've done, everything you've survived, everything you bring. You stop seeing yourself through their eyes and start seeing yourself through your own. That's self-worth. It's not arrogance, it's awareness. It's not about thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about knowing you don't have to chase anyone to prove you're enough. And when you get to that place, when you start moving from power instead of weakness, something amazing happens. People start moving differently around you. The same ones who ignored you before start paying attention. Not because you begged them to, but because you stopped begging. They feel the shift. They notice that your energy isn't free anymore, that your time isn't guaranteed. And that scarcity makes value rise. That's human nature. People want what's not easy to get. They respect what doesn't bend to their convenience. They value what requires effort to reach. That's why when you stop chasing, you're not losing people, you're filtering them. The ones who only stay because you chase, they fall away. The ones who truly value you, they step up. They bring energy to match yours. And that's when real connections form. Self-worth and power are tied together. You can't have one without the other. Power without self-worth becomes arrogance, and self-worth without power becomes vulnerability. But when they come together, you walk different, you talk different, you attract different. You stop begging to be chosen because you already chose yourself. You stop moving like you're replaceable because you know your value can't be duplicated. You stop chasing and suddenly the world starts chasing you, not because you're trying to play games, not because you're manipulating anyone, but because energy respects strength. And strength comes from within. Energy is the real currency of life. Everybody talks about money, about time, about opportunity, but at the end of the day, none of those mean anything if you don't have the energy to move. You can lose money and make it back. You can waste time and learn from it. But when you drain your energy in the wrong places, it's like pouring water into a cracked glass. No matter how much you feel, it never stays. And most people don't even realize how much of their energy they're giving away until they're empty. They're running on fumes, wondering why they feel tired, frustrated, unmotivated, disconnected from their own goals. 9 times out of 10, it's because they've been investing their energy into people, places, and situations that don't give a return. When you chase people, that's exactly what you're doing. You're putting your energy into proving, into pleasing, into making sure someone else is good while you're quietly starving yourself. Every time you overthink why they haven't called, every time you replay a conversation in your head, every time you go out of your way to get their attention, that's energy leaving your account. And the truth is, most people don't even notice it because energy isn't like money where you can open the app and see the balance. Is invisible until you feel the weight of it missing. You start waking up drained. You start losing focus. You stop having the drive to push toward your own goals. That's the hidden cost of chasing. It robs you of the fuel you need to build yourself. Think about it like this. If your energy was money, would you hand it out to everybody for free? Would you keep giving it to people who don't pay you back, who don't even say thank you? Probably not. You'd call that a bad investment. But somehow when it comes to energy, people don't think that way. They keep pouring and pouring, thinking one day it'll come back, one day they'll wake up and finally get recognized. But life doesn't work like that. Energy follows the same rules as money. If you spend it recklessly, it disappears. And if you invest it wisely, it multiplies. That's why when you stop chasing, you stop wasting energy. You stop burning yourself out trying to keep connections alive. They were never meant to survive on your effort alone. You start conserving that power for yourself, for the things that actually grow you, feed you, push you forward. You start realizing how heavy it is to constantly be the one keeping the fire alive. Because fire takes fuel. And when you're the only one throwing logs on the flames, of course you're exhausted. Of course you feel empty. You've been giving without receiving. And that's not noble, that's destructive. Energy attracts energy. If you pouring attracts energy. If you pouring into someone and they're not pouring back, you're creating a one-way street. That imbalance not only drains you, it teaches them that your energy is endless and free. They start expecting it, not respecting it. And once expectation sets in, appreciation fades. That's how you end up invisible in the very place you work the hardest to be seen. But when you step back, when you stop giving energy where it's not valued, you force the balance to reset. You show that your energy has worth, and worth demands respect. And don't get it twisted. Protecting your energy doesn't mean you stop giving. It just means you start being intentional about where you give. You start asking yourself, is this worth my energy? Is this person adding back into me? Is this situation helping me grow, or is it just taking from me? Because once you realize energy is currency, you treat it differently. You stop spending it on people who don't appreciate it, and you start investing it in yourself. And the return on that is powerful. When you invest energy in yourself, your goals, your health, your growth, your peace, it multiplies. It creates momentum, it creates opportunities, it creates magnetism. You start to feel stronger, sharper, more alive. People notice that. They notice the glow that comes when someone is fueled by their own energy instead of drained by others. Another truth, energy leaves traces. The people you give it to feel it whether they admit it or not. When you're always chasing, they feel the weight of your energy constantly on them. It becomes background noise, but when that noise goes silent, when that presence disappears, they feel the difference. They might not have valued it before, but absence makes them realize how much it carried. That's why people start missing you when you start chasing. They feel the loss of your energy because energy can't be replaced. Nobody else gives exactly what you give, and that uniqueness is your power. But it only becomes clear when you stop throwing it away like it's cheap. And let's be real, energy doesn't just affect relationships, it affects everything. When you drain from chasing, your work suffers, your creativity suffers, your focus suffers, you start moving slow. Start doubting yourself, start losing the hunger to build. But when you protect your energy, suddenly you have fuel for all of that. You have the stamina to push through long nights, the clarity to make sharp decisions, the presence to show up fully in your own life. And that's what really shifts the game. When you stop chasing others and start chasing your own vision with that same energy. Because energy invested in yourself always pays the highest return. Most people don't fail because they lack talent or resources or even time. They fail because they leak energy in the wrong places. They chase validation, they chase people, they chase situations that were never meant for them. And by the time they look up, they're too tired to chase what really mattered. That's why being intentional with your energy is everything. It's discipline, it's awareness, it's understanding that not everyone deserves access to your fuel. Some people are meant to ride with you, some people are just hitchhiking. And if you don't recognize the difference, you'll end up carrying people who are only meant to walk. So energy investment is about recognizing your power and protecting it. It's about knowing that every thought, every action, every effort is a transaction. You're either building yourself up or tearing yourself down. You're either multiplying your fuel or draining it. And the choice is always yours. The more you chase, the more you spend without return. The more you stand still and move with intention, the more you keep your energy flowing back into you. That's how you stop living empty and start living full. That's how you shift from chasing to being chased. There's a different kind of power that comes when you stop running after people and start running after yourself. That's when you start to notice the magnetic pull. It's that invisible energy that draws people towards you without you even trying. And the wild part is, it doesn't come from chasing, convincing, or begging anyone to notice you. It comes from being so focused on your own growth, your own grind, your own elevation, that people can't help but pay attention. They feel the shift, they feel the strength, they feel the difference in the way you carry yourself. This magnetic pull, and it's something chasing can never create. See, when you're chasing someone, the energy is one-sided. You're pouring out attention, pouring out time, pouring out effort, hoping they'll see you as valuable.
Right.
The magnetic pull works the opposite way. You're not pouring out, you're building up. You're stacking discipline, stacking consistency, stacking results. You're building something that speaks louder than words. And people are drawn to that naturally because energy doesn't lie. If someone is locked in on their purpose, it radiates. You can't fake it. You can't pretend it. It's felt in every move you make, in the way you walk into a room, in the way you speak, in the way you work when nobody's watching. That's the type of energy that makes people lean in without you lifting a finger. Magnetic pull is born from focus. When you stop scattering your energy on chasing others, you have the space to put it into yourself, and that focus compounds. Day after day, move after move, you start to elevate, you start to look different, think different, act different. And people notice. They might not say it out loud, but they feel it. They wonder what changed, why your presence feels heavier, why your silence feels louder than your words ever did. That's because growth leaves fingerprints. Every time you invest in yourself, every time you improve, you leave behind traces of that progress that people can't ignore. And those traces are what pull people in. It's the law of attraction in its rawest form, like gravity. When you build weight, people feel the pull. But weight doesn't come from chasing others, it comes from stacking yourself. If you're always running after people, your energy is light, scattered, easy to dismiss. But when you stop and root yourself in purpose, you become solid. And solid things have gravity. Solid things attract without moving. That's why a mountain doesn't chase anyone, but people travel across the world to climb it. That's why the sun doesn't beg anyone to notice it, but everything revolves around its presence. That's the difference between chasing and pulling. Magnetic pull also comes from authenticity. When you're not desperate to be seen, you're free to be real. You're not bending yourself to fit someone else's expectations. You're not changing your rhythm to match theirs. You're living in your truth, and truth has its own kind of magnetism. People are tired of masks, tired of fakes, tired of the same recycled energy. When they see someone who is authentic, who stands firm in who they are, they're drawn to it like water in the desert. They might not even understand why, but they can't ignore it. That's what happens when you stop chasing and just stand in your realness. And let's be clear, magnetic pull doesn't mean everybody's going to love you. In fact, the stronger your pull, the more it polarizes people. Some will be inspired, some will be intimidated, some will want to come closer, some will want to pull away. But that's still proof the energy is working, because indifference is the opposite of pull. If you're chasing, most people are indifferent. They don't care enough to move. But when you're magnetic, nobody is indifferent. They either feel drawn in or they feel challenged. Either way, you're commanding energy without even chasing it. Another piece of magnetic pull comes from discipline. People respect what they can't do themselves. When they see you wake up early, stay consistent, keep building when nobody's clapping, they feel that. They might not say it, but they admire it. Discipline creates results, and results speak. You don't have to post 100 times about what you're doing. The work shows. The glow shows. The change in your lifestyle shows. That's why focusing on growth always outshines chasing attention. Attention fades, but results are undeniable. And results pull people in because success has a frequency that others want to tap into. The funny thing is, the same people you used to chase will start circling back once you stop. Not because they suddenly changed, but because your energy did. They start feeling the pull they never felt before. They see that you're not available like you once were, and scarcity increases value. They remember the energy you used to give for you, and now that it's not there, they want it back. But here's where the real shift happens. By the time they come back, you don't even need them anymore. Because magnetic pull doesn't just bring back the past, it opens doors to new people, new opportunities, new levels that chasing could never reach. Magnetic pull is about alignment. When you're chasing, you're out of alignment because you're moving outside of yourself, reaching for something that doesn't want to be reached. But when you stop chasing, you move back into your lane. You put your energy where it belongs, into your own growth, your own vision, your own peace. And when you're aligned, the right people, the right opportunities, the right blessings start finding you, not because you forced it, because energy attracts energy. The right frequencies connect when they're tuned the same. You can't tune yourself if you're too busy chasing someone else's song. The truth is, you don't have to beg to be valued. You don't have to run after respect.
Yeah, I'm scared.
All you have to do is build yourself up until your presence speaks so loud it pulls respect to you. And that's what magnetic pull really is. It's presence. The presence of someone who knows their worth, who lives in discipline, who moves in authenticity, who focuses on growth. That presence doesn't need to chase, it draws everything it needs, and it filters out what doesn't belong. And the beauty of it is, once you feel that pull working in your own life, you'll never waste energy chasing again. There's a big difference between being noticed and being respected. Attention is loud, it's flashy, it's quick, it comes and goes like waves, and most of the time it's shallow. Respect is quiet, it's steady, it's deep, it lasts. But too many people waste themselves chasing attention instead of building respect. They think if everybody's looking at them, they're winning. They think if they're always on someone's mind, they're valuable. But attention is easy to get. Respect takes something real. And when you stop chasing, that's when you learn how to trade the temporary high of attention for the long-lasting weight of respect. Attention runs on noise. Post enough, call enough, show up uninvited enough, and people will notice you. But notice doesn't mean value. Notice doesn't mean loyalty. People notice clowns in the circus too. They clap, they laugh, and then they forget. That's what attention does. It entertains for a moment and disappears. Respect is different. Respect doesn't need noise. It doesn't need you to remind people who you are every 5 minutes. Respect lives in consistency, in integrity, in the way you move even when nobody's watching. Respect lingers long after the moment has passed. Someone who respects you will think about you when you're not even around. They'll speak your name with weight, not because you shouted for it, but because your presence earned it. The reason chasing feels is because chasing is about attention. You're trying to force people to look your way, to think about you, to notice your presence. But the more you chase, the more you prove you care more about being noticed than being respected. And people feel that. They might give you little bits of attention to keep you satisfied, but they'll never hand you respect, because respect isn't given to people who beg. Respect is given to people who stand on their own, who don't fold under silence, who can disappear for a while and still carry weight when they come back.
No, for sure.
That's the difference.
That court shit is too,
Respect is tied to boundaries. Attention is tied to desperation. When you set boundaries, when you show that your time, your energy, your presence has limits, people start to respect you. They realize they can't just have you whenever they want. They can't just take your energy for granted. Boundaries build value, and value builds respect. But when you're chasing, you have no boundaries. You're always available, always accessible, always giving more than you receive. Anything that's too available loses respect. Scarcity raises value, distance raises value, silence raises value. That's why stepping back builds respect faster than chasing ever could. And let's be real, attention feels good in the moment. A text back, a like, a call, it feels like proof that you matter, but it's surface level. It doesn't hold weight when life gets real. Attention doesn't show up when you're struggling. Attention doesn't defend your name when you're not in the room. Attention doesn't invest in your growth or protect your peace. Respect does. Respect is when someone shows up for you not because they entertain, but because they honor your worth. Respect is when someone listens when you speak, not because you demanded their attention, but because your words carry weight. That's why respect will always outlast attention. When you stop chasing, you shift from one to the other. You stop chasing texts, likes, calls, conversations. You start moving in silence, focusing on your growth, your grind, your peace. And over time, people stop seeing you as the one who's always there to give them attention. They start seeing you as the one who commands respect, because distance forces them to evaluate. They replay the moments when you showed up, the energy you gave, the value you brought, and when they realize it's not there anymore, they respect it more. It's human nature. We don't respect what we can take freely, we respect what we can lose. The crazy thing is, the same people who ignored you when you chased them will treat you different once you stop. Not because they changed, but because the energy did. They see you no longer move for attention, you're no longer begging to be noticed, and that shift forces them to treat you with respect if they want access. That's why stillness is more powerful than chasing. Stillness says, I know my worth, I don't need your attention to prove it. If you want me, you'll come correct. And people can't ignore that. They either rise to the level of respect or they fall off completely. Either way, you win, because you're no longer giving energy to those who only had eyes not honored. Respect also sticks because it's tied to character. People might forget what you did for them, but they never forget how you carried yourself. They never forget your integrity, your discipline, your authenticity. Respect grows out of those roots. That's why you don't have to force it. You just have to live it. The more you hold yourself accountable, the more you live by your own standards, the more you stand firm, even when it's not easy, the more respect you build. That respect becomes your reputation, and reputation outlasts attention by miles. Attention disappears when the moment ends. Reputation carries when you're not even present. Another thing, attention is selfish, but respect is shared. People give you attention when it benefits them, when it entertains them, when it fills their boredom. But people give you respect because you've built something bigger than yourself. Respect is when people honor what you represent. It's when they see you as solid, dependable, real. That's why it holds more weight. It's not about them being entertained. It's about them recognizing your value regardless of what they gain. And the truth is, everybody wants respect deep down, but too many settle for attention because it's easier to get. Respect requires patience, boundaries, growth, silence, and consistency. Attention just requires noise. But noise fades, respect echo. So when you're tired of chasing, tired of begging, tired of being overlooked, remember that what you really want isn't attention, it's respect. You don't want to just be noticed in the moment, you want to be remembered beyond it. You don't want to just take up space, you want to hold weight. And weight doesn't come from chasing anybody, it comes from standing still, holding firm, and building yourself until you no longer need to be noticed. You become undeniable. That's when people respect you, because you respected yourself first. At the end of the day, life isn't about who you can chase down, it's about who shows up when you stand still. When you stop begging to be seen, when you stop giving away your energy for free, when you stop moving like your worth depends on someone else's attention, that's when people really see you. That's when absence turns into presence. That's when silence turns into respect. Because what's real doesn't need to be chased. Respect doesn't need reminders. Value doesn't need to prove itself. And if somebody can only recognize your worth when you're running after them, then they were never worthy of it in the first place. So stop chasing, pour that energy into yourself. Build your vision, protect your peace, move with discipline, live with authenticity, and watch how the right people, the right opportunities, the right blessings start gravitating towards you. They won't just notice you, they'll respect you, and respect lasts longer than any kind of attention you could ever beg for.
Amen.
Look, everybody in this room got a story. We've all been through things that left scars, mistakes we made, situations we didn't ask for, lessons we had to learn the hard way. But here's the truth. Your past is not your prison, it's your teacher. And if you don't understand that, you'll stay stuck replaying the same chapter when your whole book is waiting to be written. The future don't care about what you used to be. It only responds to what you decide to be from this moment forward. Everybody in this room carries a story. Some of us carry it like armor. Some of us carry it like baggage, but either way, we all got one. And the truth is, the story you've lived so far might have pain in it, might have failure in it, might even have shame in it. But hear me when I say this. Your past is evidence, not a sentence. It's proof of what you survived, not a judgment on who you're forever meant to be. The problem is, most people confuse where they've been with where they're going. They let their yesterday set limits on their tomorrow. It's like driving while staring in the rearview mirror. You're gonna crash, no question. You can't move forward if your eyes are locked on what's behind you. The rearview is there for a glance, not for guidance. It gives you awareness, but the windshield, that's at your future and it's way bigger. Let me make this plain. The past is not your prison. It doesn't have bars unless you keep holding on to them. What you went through, what you lost, what you failed at, that's just evidence that you made it through. You're sitting here breathing, living, standing. That's proof of strength, not proof of limitation. Look at the lives of some of the most powerful people we know. Oprah Winfrey was born into poverty, faced abuse as a child, and had every reason to let her environment define her. Statistically, the odds were stacked against her, but she refused to let that chapter become her identity. She flipped her pain into purpose, her wounds into wisdom. Today, she's not just a billionaire. She's a voice that shaped generations. If she had accepted her past as her permanent identity, none of that would exist. Take Jay-Z. He came from Marcy Projects, surrounded by struggle, caught up in the streets. By society standards, he wasn't supposed to make it out. But he didn't let that reality chain him down. Instead, he used it as raw material. His lyrics, his hustle, his business empire, all of it was born from not letting the past dictate the future. His past wasn't his sentence. It was evidence of the environment he overcame. Think about Steve Jobs. He was adopted, dropped out of college, got fired from his own company. Fired. Most people would have been destroyed by that. They would have taken that failure as a life sentence and never tried again. But Jobs came back stronger, reinvented himself, and ended up creating innovations that changed how the entire world communicates. That's the power of not letting yesterday write tomorrow. So let me bring it closer to home. Some of you in this room are still holding on to things you did years ago. Maybe you made choices you regret. Maybe you hurt people. Maybe you wasted opportunities. And now you carry that weight like it defines you forever. But listen, a mistake doesn't make you a mistake. A failure doesn't make you a failure. What it makes you is human. What defines you is whether you get up, whether you grow, whether you decide to write a different ending. Too often, people in the labels stick. Ex-con, high school dropout, single parent, addict. These labels may describe a moment, but they don't describe the whole story. They don't capture the fight, the resilience, the lessons learned. The label says where you've been, doesn't say where you're headed. And if you're not careful, you'll let society or even your own mind tattoo those labels on your future. You gotta peel them off and remind yourself, I am not what happened to me. I am what I choose to become. When you shift how you see your past, it stops being a chain and becomes fuel. Every scar, every setback, every heartbreak, it all becomes proof of endurance. Proof that you've been tested, proof that you didn't fold. Think about a diamond. It doesn't become what it is without pressure. If you saw the raw stone before the pressure, you wouldn't even recognize it. The beauty comes because it went through something. That's true. There's a concept called post-traumatic growth. Studies show that many people who go through intense hardship end up reporting higher levels of strength, gratitude, and purpose afterward. Not because the pain disappears, but because they learn how to make meaning from it. They didn't stay stuck in the trauma, they flipped it into transformation. And that's available to every one of us. I know people who've been through prison, lost years of their life, and came out to build businesses that not only supported their families, but created jobs for others. The same system that tried to define them as criminals, they use as proof of their resilience. That's what happens when you treat the past as evidence instead of a sentence. Even in my own life, I've seen it. Times where I fell short, times where I doubted myself, times where I thought certain doors were closed forever. But I realized something. Failure isn't the opposite of success, it's part of it. Every L I took taught me something I couldn't have learned from the win. And if I had let those moments define me, I wouldn't be standing here speaking to you today. Think about this. The seed has to be buried before it can grow. The dirt that covers it could look like the end, but really it's the beginning. Some of you feel buried by your past like life threw dirt over your head, but you're not buried, you're planted. That dark season wasn't to end you, it was to grow you. And the roots you build in that darkness are what's going to let you rise higher than you ever thought possible. So don't hide your story. Don't be ashamed of it. Don't run from it. Use it. Speak it. Share it. Somebody else needs to hear what you went through so they know they can survive too. Your past is your testimony, your evidence. Not evidence that you're doomed, but evidence that you're strong enough to keep standing. If you only remember one thing tonight, let it be this. Your past may explain you, but it doesn't define you. It may shape you, but it doesn't limit you. What defines you is the choice you make right now in this moment to keep pushing, to keep growing, to keep building a future that looks nothing like the struggle you came from. Just stop staring in the rear view. Glance at it, learn from it, respect it, but keep your eyes on the windshield. The road ahead is wide, it's open, and it belongs to you. The truth is, nobody can outrun their past forever. You can try to bury it, deny it, pretend it never happened, but it always finds a way to catch up. And when it does, the weight of it feels heavier because you never dealt with it. The real power is in ownership. The moment you decide to stand up and say, yeah, that was me, I did that, I went through that, I fell, I broke, I failed, that's the moment you take control of your own story. You can't grow from what you refuse to face. You can't transform from what you won't acknowledge. Ownership is power because when you own it, nobody else can use it against you. Think about how most people move through life. They spend so much time curating the image, trying to hide the parts of themselves that feel ugly, that feel shameful. They sweep their mistakes under the rug and build walls to keep the world from seeing what's really there. But here's the problem. You can't heal what you hide. You can't change what you refuse to confront. And deep down, the pain of pretending is worse than the pain of admitting. The first step in moving past your past is saying, yes, this happened. Yes, I made mistakes. Yes, I went down the wrong road. When you say that, you free yourself from the prison of denial. There's a reason stories like Malcolm X still inspire generations. Here's a man who was caught up in crime, ended up in prison, written off by society. He had every reason to let shame silence him. But instead, in that cell, he made a choice. He owned who he was. He didn't hide from the fact that he had taken the wrong path. He faced it head on, and then he used it as a foundation to rebuild himself. He educated his mind, disciplined his spirit, and redefined his purpose. By the time he walked out, he wasn't the same man he walked in. And because he owned his story, he had the power to write a new one. That's ownership. That's growth. See, when you run from your past, you give it control. You let it chase you, haunt you, define you, and whispers you're too afraid to confront. But when you own it, you flip the script. You take the pen out of everybody else's hand and put it in your own. And you decide how the next chapter reads. That's why people respect transparency. That's why vulnerability is powerful. Because nobody can hold your story over your head once you've already told it yourself. I'll give you a simple example. Think about someone who went bankrupt. They can either spend their life hiding it, ashamed, pretending it didn't happen, or they can say, yeah, I lost it all once. I made bad decisions, but I learned. I came back smarter, stronger, and wiser. Which one of those people do you think inspires respect? Which one do you think has a better chance of building something new, the one who owns it? Because owning it turns the loss into a lesson. The streets will test you, life will test you, business will test you, and sometimes you will fail. But the failure is not what defines you. The refusal to own it does. You'll notice the strongest leaders are the ones who don't run from accountability. They don't waste energy pretending they're perfect. They admit when they're wrong, they admit when they've slipped, and then they pivot and grow. That's why people follow them. That's why people trust them. I know people who spent years fighting addictions, people who burned bridges, hurt families, lost jobs, and for a long time they lived in denial. They said, that wasn't me, or I didn't really do that. And because they denied it, they stayed stuck in the same cycle. But the moment they said, yes, I was addicted, yes, I hurt people, yes, I need to change, that was the moment everything shifted. Ownership unlocked accountability, and accountability created growth. Let me tell you something real. Shame is heavy, but it loses its weight the moment you expose it to light. You think people will judge you, but often they'll respect you more for being honest. They'll see the courage in your transparency. And the people who do judge, they don't matter because they don't hold your pen. There's data to back this up too. Psychologists talk about the power of self-disclosure, the act of admitting your flaws and mistakes. People who openly confront their past instead of suppressing it are proven to experience higher levels of resilience and long-term success. Why? Because they're not wasting energy hiding. They're using that energy to grow. But ownership doesn't just mean admitting the bad. It means claiming the good too. Some of us come from environments where survival was the biggest achievement. We downplay it because we think it's not impressive enough. But if you survive poverty, abuse, heartbreak, betrayal, you need to own that survival. That's strength. That's resilience. That's evidence of what you're capable of. Don't shrink from it. Don't hide it. Own it. And I want to make this clear. Ownership doesn't mean you stay stuck in the past. It doesn't mean you replay your mistakes over and over. It means you acknowledge them, you learn from them, and then you step forward with wisdom. Ownership is not about shame. It's about freedom. It's about saying, this is what I did, but this is not who I am forever. It's about refusing to let your past hold the pen when your hand is the one writing that. Too many people let fear of judgment stop them from stepping into their future. They say, what do people find out about my record, my failures, my past? But listen, if you own it, then nobody can use it against you. If you stand in it boldly, they can't weaponize it. It's only a weapon if you keep it hidden. When you own it, you disarm. So let me talk to the ones who feel like they messed up too bad, like they went too far, like there's no coming back. Let me remind you, some of the most powerful people we know started at rock bottom. They didn't just climb out, they built ladders for others. But it started with one decision: to stop running, to stop hiding, to stop pretending, and to face themselves with honesty. Ownership is the soil where growth is planted, and if you water it with accountability, it grows into transformation. You might have a past, but your past doesn't own you unless you refuse to own it. And once you own it, it becomes the very foundation of your strength. That's how you grow. That's how you move forward. That's how you take the pen back and write a future that looks nothing like the story you used to tell. Some of the heaviest chains you'll ever carry are the ones you can't even see. They don't rattle, they don't clink, but they're there, wrapped around your mind, wrapped around your confidence, wrapped around your future. They're the voices that say, I'll never be more than this. They're the whispers that repeat, people like me don't make it. They're the lies that convince you it's too late. I've gone too far. I missed my chance. Those chains don't come from metal, they come from belief. And the wild thing is, most of the time they were never even yours, they were planted in you by someone else. An environment, a parent who doubted you, a teacher who counted you out, a system that never gave you a fair shot. But just because the chains were placed on you, doesn't mean you gotta keep wearing them. The mind is powerful. It can be your greatest weapon or your biggest enemy. If your mind is locked in chains, it'll convince you that yesterday decides tomorrow. It'll tell you that because you failed once, you'll always fail. Because you grew up in poverty, you'll never see wealth. Because you were abandoned, you'll never know love. But here's the truth. Those are illusions. They're not laws. They're not destiny. They're just beliefs. And beliefs can be broken. You ever seen an elephant at a circus? They tie it to a small rope when it's young. The elephant pulls and pulls, but it's too small to break free. Eventually it gives up. Years later, that same elephant is grown, powerful enough to rip that rope like tissue paper. But it doesn't even try, because in its mind, the chain is still unbreakable. That's what limiting beliefs do to us. They keep us tied to a rope we could have broken years ago if we only realized our strength. I've watched people stay trapped in jobs they hate, relationships that drain them, cycles that keep them small, all because of a belief that told them they didn't deserve more. But beliefs are stories, and stories can be rewritten. Studies even back this up. Psychologists have found that when people literally rewrite their personal narrative, journaling, reframing their past, telling themselves a different story about what happened, they unlock new levels of success and happiness. Why? Because the story you tell yourself about yourself becomes the script you live by. If you keep replaying the script that says, I'm not enough, then your life will play out like that. But if you start writing a new script, one that says, I've been through struggle, but I'm strong. I failed, but I'm learning. I've been counted out, but I'm still standing. Then your actions start aligning with that new belief. And once you change the story in your head, you change the story in your life. Think about the people who made history. If they had believed the lies in their head, we'd never know their names. Imagine if Nelson Mandela believed the system that told him he was nothing. Imagine if Maya Angelou believed the trauma she endured meant she'd never have a voice. Imagine if Kobe Bryant believed the scouts who said he was too young, too raw. Every single one of them had reasons to accept the chains, but they broke them by choosing to believe something greater. I know a young man who grew up hearing the same thing from everybody. You'll end up in jail like your father. You'll never be anything. And for a while he believed it. He acted out, he got into trouble, he followed the script that was written for him. But one day he picked up a pen and started journaling. At first it was just scribbles, just anger on paper, but then it turned into reflections. Then it turned into goals. Slowly, he started to see himself different on the page. He stopped writing about what he couldn't do and started writing about what he would do. Years later, he runs his own company. The same people who doubted him now work for him. What changed? Not his environment, not his DNA. His beliefs? You might be sitting here thinking, but I've failed too much, made too many mistakes. That's another chain. Failure is not a life sentence. Failure is information. It's feedback. It's a signal that something didn't work, not that you don't work. Edison failed over 1,000 times before he created the light bulb. If he believed the lie that failure meant he was finished, we'd still be in the dark. And here's another lie, people like me don't make it. That chain is heavy because it sounds true. When you look around and see people who look like you struggling, people from where you're from, stuck. But don't confuse patterns with destiny. Just because it's common doesn't mean it's permanent. Somebody has to break the cycle. Somebody has to be the first. And if you're hearing my voice right now, maybe that somebody is you. Just a story about a teacher who told a kid he'd never amount to anything. That kid believed it, and his grades reflected it. But years later, another teacher told him he was brilliant, told him he could go to college, told him he had potential. For the first time, he believed a different story. That belief shifted everything. He went on to graduate, build a career, and live a life bigger than the one he was told he could. That's the power of belief. That's the difference between chains and freedom. When you start breaking those chains, life opens up. You stop settling for survival and start aiming for growth. You stop saying, this is just who I am, and start saying, this is who I'm becoming. And the people around you notice. They see the shift in your energy, your confidence, your decisions. Your belief becomes contagious. It gives others permission to break their own chains. The question is, how do you break them? It starts with awareness. You got to catch yourself in the moment when that thought creeps in, I'm not enough. I can't do this. People like me don't succeed. Catch it, call it what it is, a lie, and replace it with truth. Then reinforce it, write it down, say it out loud. Surround yourself with people who speak life into you instead of death. Every time you replace a chain with a truth, the grip gets weaker. Understand this, the mind is like a garden. If you keep planting weeds, weeds will grow. But if you start planting seeds of strength, a vision, a purpose, you'll see a different harvest. It doesn't happen overnight, but with consistency, the garden changes. That's how you rewire your beliefs. That's how you break chains. Don't let invisible ropes hold you back from the life you meant to live. Don't let lies disguised as beliefs keep you from greatness. You are not too far gone. You are not too broken. You are not limited to the script you were handed. Rewrite it, believe bigger, and watch how your life expands to match the story you choose to tell. One of the biggest traps we fall into is chasing a definition of success that was never ours in the first place. From the time we're young, we get taught to measure ourselves by somebody else's scoreboard. For some it's money, for others it's likes and followers, for some it's the car, the jewelry, the attention from people who don't even care about them. And if you grew up in the struggle, sometimes the scoreboard is even smaller than that. It's just surviving the week, getting a quick flip, having your name ring out on the block. But the truth is, chasing the wrong scoreboard will have you winning games that don't matter. It'll have you scoring points in a league that doesn't count. And at the end of it all, you'll look around and realize you traded time, energy, and maybe even your life for something that didn't give you real fulfillment. But real success is not the surface stuff. Real success is deeper. Real success is peace. Real success is freedom. Real success is creating something that lasts longer than you. Because at the end of the day, the car breaks down, the jewelry loses shine, the hype fades. But peace is priceless. Freedom, being able to wake up and make decisions on your own terms without fear, without being chained to debt or to an image, that's priceless. And legacy, that's something no one can take away because it lives after you're gone. I know brothers who came from the block, got caught up, caught cases, and everybody thought it was over for them. The whole neighborhood had already written their story. People said they'd be in and out of prison forever, or worse, gone before 30. But they made a decision to redefine success for themselves. They stopped chasing the scoreboard of validation and started chasing stability, ownership, and freedom. They got into real estate. They opened small businesses. They hired people who needed second chances, people like them. And now their names ring out, not because of what they did wrong, but because of what they built. Their legacy shifted from the dude who got locked up to the man who owns half the block and gives back to the youth. That's the power of redefining success. You see, redefining success takes courage because it means stepping off the path that everyone else is walking. It means ignoring the applause for things that don't matter and instead focusing on the quiet grind of building something real. The streets might clap for the flash, social media might celebrate the flex, but that's noise. What you should measure yourself by is whether you're becoming the best version of yourself. Are you free? Are you building something that lasts? Are you creating impact? That's the scoreboard that matters. A lot of people confuse wealth with riches. Rich is money. Wealth is freedom. Rich is looking like you got it. Wealth is not needing to prove it. Rich is temporary. Wealth is generational. And wealth doesn't always mean millions. It can mean health, time, family, peace of mind. If you grew up in survival mode, sometimes the richest thing you can do is break the cycle so your kids don't have to go through what you went through. That's wealth. Let me give you something real. There are people making six figures who are miserable. They are in jobs they hate, surrounded by people they don't respect, living for the weekend, praying for vacation days. On paper, they look successful. But inside, they're dying because they define success by society's scoreboard instead of their own. And then there are people who make half that, but wake up every morning with purpose, run businesses that align with their values, and go to sleep at night in peace. Who's really winning? Redefining success is also about understanding the difference between external validation and internal fulfillment. External validation is fragile. It depends on the crowd, the likes, the attention. Internal fulfillment is solid. It comes from knowing you're aligned with your purpose. That's why some of the loudest people online are the emptiest, and some of the quietest people in the room are the most content. When you stop chasing applause, you start chasing impact. And impact lasts longer than applause ever will. I've seen young men and women chase the fast life because that was the only definition of success they were exposed to. They thought having money quick, respect in the streets, and status was the pinnacle. But that scoreboard always ends the same. Broken relationships, legal trouble, or worse, an early grave. But when they got exposed to entrepreneurs, investors, mentors who showed them a different way, they realized there's another scoreboard to play by. They realized they could own assets instead of liabilities. They could build businesses instead of cases. They could stack memories instead of charges. That shift changed everything. There's a study that showed people who define success in terms of personal growth, relationships, and contribution were not only happier, but lived longer than those who defined it in terms of material gain alone. That's because fulfillment feeds the soul in a way money can't. When you're at peace with yourself, stress drops, health improves, and life feels lighter. That's the kind of wealth that doesn't show up on Instagram, but shows up in your spirit. And let me be clear, it's not wrong to want money. It's not wrong to want nice things, but the question is, are those things owning you, or are you owning them? If your peace depends on your possessions, you're not free. You're rented out to the scoreboard of other people's approval. But if you can enjoy those things while knowing they don't define you, that's balance. The car is a tool, the house is a tool, the jewelry is a symbol, but none of it should be the measure of your worth. I know a brother who came home from prison with nothing but a vision. He could have chased the fast hustle again. He knew how. He knew it would get him money quick. But he said, that's not success anymore. Success for me is being free, not having to look over my shoulder, being there for my kids. So he worked odd jobs, stacked small checks, saved, and eventually started a landscaping business. Now, 10 years later, he owns trucks, employs crews, and lives in a house he never thought possible. His definition of success was never the flash, it was stability. And because he defined it on his own terms, he won. That's a message I want you to take in. Don't let anybody else's scoreboard determine your life. Redefine it for yourself. Maybe for you, success is financial freedom. Maybe it's breaking generational curses. Maybe it's raising a family in love and safety. Maybe it's creating art that inspires. Whatever it is, make sure it's yours. Because when it's yours, the journey will feel worth it. And when it's yours, the wins will actually matter. The past is already written. You can't go back and erase it. Can't rewind the clock. Can't undo what's been done. In the future, that's not guaranteed. You can plan for it, dream about it, map it out, but none of us are promised tomorrow. That means the only real power you hold in your hands is today, this moment, right here, right now. And the truth is, what you do with today is writing a blueprint for the rest of your life. Every decision you make today, no matter how small it feels, is shaping who you'll be tomorrow. The problem is, too many of us waste today either mourning yesterday or waiting for tomorrow. We let regret chain us to the past, or we let procrastination trick us into thinking we'll get serious later. But later is a dangerous word. Later has buried more dreams than failure ever did. Later convinces you that you've got time you don't actually have. Later robs today of its power. Small choices today compound into big changes tomorrow. Think about money. You put aside a little bit every day. With time, it grows into wealth. Life is the same way. That one decision to pick up a book instead of scrolling, to hit the gym instead of the couch, to spend an hour on your craft instead of wasting it on distractions, that compounds. One choice doesn't seem like much in the moment, but stack enough of them together and you've got transformation. I know a man who was overweight, depressed, and felt like life had passed him by. He couldn't see a way out, couldn't see a future worth living for. But one random Tuesday, he decided to walk for 10 minutes. That was it. No grand plan, no major overhaul, just 10 minutes. The next day, he did it again and again. Slowly, those walks turned into jogs. The jogs turned into workouts. The workouts turned into a lifestyle. A year later, he had lost 100 pounds. But the weight loss wasn't even the biggest victory. He had built a community, a fitness movement that inspired thousands of people to take control of their health. All of it started with one decision he made on a day that looked ordinary. That's the power of today, and the same is true in every area of life. That call you've been putting off to mend a broken relationship, make it today. That business idea you've been sitting on for years, take one step toward it today. That dream you keep saying you'll chase when the timing is right, start today. Because the timing will never feel perfect. The seed you plant today may not sprout overnight, but if you don't plant it, nothing will grow at all. Think about athletes. The championships we celebrate are won long before the game. They're won in the early mornings when nobody's watching, when the decision to practice, to train, to eat right, to push harder is made over and over again. That's not talent, that's consistency. And consistency is nothing but the power of today repeated daily. One of the biggest lies we tell ourselves is, I'll start when I'm ready, but the truth is, you'll never feel fully ready. Readiness comes after you start, not before. Waiting for some magical moment where fear disappears and motivation is permanent is like waiting for the rain to stop in the middle of a storm. You'll be stuck forever. You have to move even while it's uncomfortable. You have to take the first step, even when it feels small. The beauty of today is that it doesn't matter what yesterday looked like. You could have failed 1,000 times before, but today is fresh. You could have been written off by everybody around you, but today is another chance. Every sunrise is proof that you've been handed another opportunity, and the question is, what are you going to do with it? I remember reading about a study on habits that said it takes about 66 days on average to form a new one. That means in just over 2 months, the choices you start today could become second nature. Imagine where you could be 2 months from now if you decided today to stop making excuses and start making moves. 2 months might not sound like much, but if you stack enough 2 months together, your whole life changes. I know people who quit smoking after decades because they said today's the day. I know people who went back to school in their 40s who said, I can't change the past, but today I can sign up. I know entrepreneurs who built $1 million companies because one day they said, I'll make one phone call, one pitch, one connection. They didn't wait until they had everything figured out. They moved today, and today opened the door to tomorrow. There's another truth about today. It's the only place where you can take action. You can't act in the past, you can't act in the future. The only place you can move, decide, and change is in this present moment. And the crazy thing is, the present is all you really have control over. Worrying about tomorrow won't change it. Regretting yesterday won't fix it. But what you do now, that's where your power lives. Some of you are carrying dreams inside you that are suffocating because you keep postponing them. You keep waiting for the perfect alignment of time, money, support. But the seed doesn't ask for perfect soil. It just asks to be planted. Once it's in the ground, it can grow. The same with your vision. Plant it today and trust the process. And don't underestimate the small wins. People think transformation is about massive leaps, but it's really about stacking small victories. One workout, one page written, $1 saved, one apology made, one risk taken. They don't look like much in the moment, but they add up. A year from now, you'll look back and realize the small wins you collected every day turn into a life you didn't think was possible. Every empire starts with a brick, every book starts with a word, every movement starts with a decision. Today is your brick, your word, your decision. And if you keep stacking them day after day, you'll look up and realize you've built something massive. So don't waste today waiting for tomorrow. Don't waste it replaying yesterday. Don't waste it underestimating its power. Treat today like the gift it is. Because at the end of the day, that's what it is, a gift. And how you use it will determine what you're giving to your future self. So I'll leave you with this. Your past is a reference point, not a residence. Don't unpack your bags there. You are not what happened to you. You are what you decide to do next. Every great story has a plot twist, and yours can start right now. Don't let your past define your future. Let it fuel it. Picture this. You wake up 6 months from now, look in the mirror, and barely recognize the person staring back. Not because you've changed on the surface, but because everything about the way you move, think, and live is sharper, stronger, and more intentional. The grind you once dreaded is now a habit you can't live without. The goals you used to talk about, you've already crossed them off and set bigger ones. And it didn't happen by accident, it happened because you made a decision, drew up a plan, and executed with precision. Too many people think transformation is some mystical event that just happens when the stars align. It's not. Transformation is math. It's what you get when focused action meets consistent time. But here's the problem. Most people quit before the equation adds up. They start strong, lose focus, and tell themselves it wasn't meant to be. The truth is, in 6 months, you can rebuild your habits, restructure your mindset, and reposition your entire life if you commit to a process and refuse to fold. Today, I'm going to break down exactly how to make that happen. Not theory, not hype. A real plan to transform your life in 180 days or less. When you talk about transforming your life in 6 months, the first thing that has to be set in stone is the vision. Not just an idea, not just a loose hope. You need a clear image of exactly what that life will look like when you arrive. Too many people move through life like they're driving through fog without headlights. They think they're headed somewhere, but they don't even have the destination punched into the GPS. That's why their results feel random. You can't expect to arrive somewhere on purpose if you don't know where you're going in the first place. This is about defining the end game with precision. Not I want to be better, not I want to make more money, not I want to be happier. Those are vague wishes. You need to paint it in high definition detail. If it's money, how much exactly? If it's health, what exact weight? What level of strength? What stamina? If it's a career move, what position? What salary? What skills mastered? And most importantly, why do you want it? That why is the fuel that's going to keep you moving when the excitement wears off and the grind feels heavy. And once you define that end game, the next step is to reverse engineer the path to get there. This is where most people fail because they think the gap between where they are now and where they want to be is too big to cross. But the truth is, any big leap can be broken down into smaller, more manageable steps. Picture your goal as a building across town. You don't teleport there in one move. You walk block by block, street by street, and you reverse engineer. You're looking at that end result and asking, what's the last move I would make before I get there? Then what's the move before that? You keep stepping backward in time until you reach the point where you're standing right now. Doing this strips away the intimidation of the journey. Instead of a giant leap, it becomes a chain of deliberate moves. Let's say your 6-month goal is to have your body in peak condition. You imagine yourself at a certain weight, with a certain muscle tone, with energy levels through the roof. Now you work backward. You know that by month 6, you'll need to be consistently hitting certain workout numbers and following a clean nutrition plan. By month 5, you'd have already built the stamina and discipline to train at that level. By month 4, you'd have cut out the unhealthy eating patterns and solidified your gym schedule. By month 3, you'd be fully adjusted to a calorie target that supports your goal. By month 2, you'd have learned proper form and technique for the exercises you're doing. By month 1, you'd have simply committed to showing up to the gym 3 times a week and replacing one bad meal a day with a healthier choice. What you've done is create a step-by-step map that takes the goal from intimidating and far away to manageable and measurable. This reverse engineering is not just for fitness, it's for anything. If you want to grow your income in 6 months, you define the number. Then you ask yourself how you can realistically get there. Do you need to close a certain number of deals, increase your rates, add a new skill that allows you to offer more value? Each of those steps gets broken down into actionable weekly and daily moves. You're building a staircase one step at a time instead of trying to jump to the top floor in one go. This approach makes the process predictable. It removes the guesswork. You're no longer relying on, I hope I get there. You're working a plan where each day you can track whether you're on pace or falling behind. The reason this clarity matters is because without it, you'll drift. You wake up each day reacting to whatever shows up instead of executing on the plan. That's how 6 months pass and nothing changes. But when you've got the destination defined and the path mapped out, every morning you know exactly what you're waking up to do. And it's not just about knowing, it's about the psychological advantage you gain from certainty. Human beings can endure a lot of discomfort in work if they believe it's leading to something specific. That belief is much harder to hold on to when the target is fuzzy. A lot of people underestimate how important it is to get granular with the goal. They think writing, I want to lose weight or I want to start a business is enough. It's not. You need metrics, timelines, and checkpoints. You need to know what winning looks like in measurable terms. When you see professional athletes preparing for a season, they're not just getting in shape. They're hitting certain speed times, certain strength levels, certain performance markers. That's how they know they're ready. You have to think the same way about your own transformation. Don't just plan to get better. Plan to hit specific numbers, milestones, and standards that are proof you're on track. Another thing that happens when you reverse engineer is you start to see which parts of your goal are under your control and which are not. This is critical because it forces you to focus your energy where it can actually make a difference. For example, you can control whether people buy your product tomorrow, but you can control how many people you reach out to, how many times you promote, and how you improve your offer. You can't control exactly how fast your body will respond to training, but you can control what you eat, how often you train, and how well you recover. By breaking the goal down into controllable actions, you take ownership of the process instead of feeling powerless. You also start to see the habits and skills you'll need to develop along the way. This is huge because a lot of people set a goal without realizing they're not yet the person who can achieve it. They don't have the habits, the mindset, or the discipline it requires. Reverse engineering exposes those gaps early so you can start working on them right now instead of finding out too late. If your 6-month goal is to write and publish a book, but you've never written consistently, the first part of your plan might not even involve the book. It might involve training yourself to write 500 words every day without fail. Once that habit is in place, the rest of the plan becomes much easier to execute. The last thing about defining your end game and reverse engineering a path is that it puts you in a position of responsibility. Once the plan exists, you can't hide behind excuses like I didn't know what to do or I didn't have a clear direction. You've got the map in front of you. If you don't follow it, that's on you. And that's actually empowering because it means you're not waiting on luck, timing, or outside help to get where you're going. You've taken control of the process from start to finish. That's how transformations happen. Not by hoping the future is different, but by designing it step by step and then walking the path you created. Building an unshakable routine is the foundation that holds any transformation together. Without it, even the clearest plan will fall apart. A lot of people think motivation is what gets things done, but motivation is just a spark. It fades fast. Discipline is the engine and routine is the track it runs on. When you set a routine, you're creating structure around your day so that the things that matter most to your 6-month goal happen no matter what else is going on. You're removing the decision making in the moment and replacing it with an automatic system. That's the difference between trying to and just doing. The first thing you have to understand about a powerful routine is that it's not about cramming as much as possible into your day. It's about protecting the time and energy you need for the actions that matter most. If your goal requires 2 hours of focused work daily, then your routine is built to guarantee those 2 hours are untouched. That means you decide ahead of time when they happen, and you treat them like a meeting with your future self that cannot be rescheduled. Without that level of respect for your schedule, life will fill those hours with other people's priorities and distractions. An unshakable routine starts with how you wake up. The first hour of your day is a signal to your mind about what kind of day it's going to be. If you started in chaos, hitting snooze, rushing around checking your phone before you've even sat up, you've already put yourself in a reactive state. But if you start with intentional actions that set your mindset, you step into the day with control. That doesn't mean you need a 5-hour morning ritual. It means you have a short sequence that prepares you mentally and physically for the work ahead. For some, that's exercise. For others, it's meditation, journaling, reading, or reviewing the day's top priorities. The key is that it's deliberate and repeated every day until it becomes second nature. Once the morning is locked in, the rest of your day should be structured around peak performance windows. Everyone has certain times when they're most alert and productive. For some, it's early in the morning. For others, it's mid-afternoon or late at night. You have to identify those windows and schedule your most important work during them. That way, you're not fighting against your own biology. The rest of your time can be used for secondary tasks that don't require as much mental energy. Without this awareness, you might be wasting your sharpest hours on low-value activities and trying to do your hardest work when your energy is already drained. The strength of a routine comes from repetition. Doing something once doesn't make it part of your life. Doing it daily without fail creates the groove that your mind and body fall into automatically. In the beginning, that repetition can feel forced. You might feel resistance every time it's time to sit down and work or go train or study. But as the days add up, it becomes automatic. You stop having to negotiate with yourself and the habit takes over. That's when progress speeds up because you're no longer wasting energy deciding whether or not to act. You just act. The other side of building a routine is cutting out the things that break it. Most people don't fail because they don't work hard. They fail because they let distractions creep in until their schedule is fragmented. It could be as small as checking your phone during a work session or saying yes to quick favors that eat into your time. Once your focus is broken, the quality of your work drops and your momentum fades. That's why protecting your routine is as important as creating it. You have to guard it like it's worth millions because over time, it will be. This protection often requires setting boundaries with people. If you're used to being available anytime, the moment you start enforcing a routine, someone's going to notice. They might joke about it or even push back. That's when you have to remember, you're not building this schedule for them, you're building it for the future you want. If someone truly supports your growth, they'll respect those boundaries. If they don't, it's a sign they're not aligned with where you're headed. A strong routine also demands that you manage your energy, not just your time. It's possible to have hours blocked off for important work, but show up to them exhausted and unfocused because you've been running on fumes. This is why your routine should include time for rest, nutrition, and recovery. You're not a machine. You can't grind endlessly without breaking down. The point is not to see how much you can suffer, but to sustain high-level execution over the long run. That means sleeping enough, eating to fuel your body, and taking short breaks to reset your focus. The one overlooked element of an unshakable routine is that it should be adaptable without losing its core structure. Life will throw curveballs, a sick day, an emergency, unexpected changes. If your entire system collapses the moment something shifts, it's not strong enough. You should have contingency plans for how to adjust while still protecting the essentials. Maybe you can't get a full workout in, but you can still do a short session at home. Maybe you can't work for 2 hours straight, but you can break it into 4 30-minute blocks. Adaptability keeps you from losing momentum when things aren't perfect. Tracking your routine is another tool that keeps it solid. When you write down your daily actions or check them off a list, you give yourself a visual record of your consistency. This builds accountability. It also makes you aware of patterns. If you start missing certain tasks repeatedly, you can address the cause before it derails you. Without tracking, it's easy to overestimate how consistent you've been and then wonder why the results aren't coming. Over time, your routine should start to feel less like a schedule and more like part of your identity. It's not something you have to do anymore, it's just who you are. That's the ultimate goal, to build a system so ingrained in your life that breaking it feels strange. At that point, even when your 6-month transformation is complete, you'll have the structure to keep growing. The results will stick because the actions that created them are built into your daily life. When you're in the early stages, it's important not to overcomplicate it. A lot of people fail to stick to a routine because they try to change everything at once. They decide they're going to wake up earlier, train harder, eat cleaner, read more, and take on extra projects, all starting Monday. Then by Wednesday, they're overwhelmed and fall back to old habits. The smarter approach is to lock in 1 or 2 key actions first. Once they're automatic, you add more. That way, you're building on a stable foundation instead of trying to balance a tower of changes is ready to collapse. The beauty of an unshakable routine is that it multiplies the impact of every effort you make. A single day of focus might not change much, but 100 days in a row will completely reshape your life. 6 months of consistent action will put you so far ahead of where you started that you won't even recognize yourself. And it won't feel like magic, it will feel like the natural result of showing up every day whether you feel like it or not. That's why building this structure is the most important investment you can make in your transformation. Eliminating distractions and negative energy is one of the hardest but most necessary moves in any serious transformation. You can have the clearest plan and the strongest routine, but if your environment is pulling against you, you're going to waste energy fighting the current instead of moving forward. Distractions don't always show up as loud, obvious interruptions. Most of the time, they're subtle, small habits and influences that slowly chip away at your focus. Negative energy isn't always about people yelling or being openly hostile. It can be as quiet as doubt, passive resistance, or the kind of conversations that keep you thinking small. If you're serious about changing your life in 6 months, you can't afford to let these things take up space in your mind or your calendar. The first step is to get brutally honest about what's pulling your attention away from the work that matters. That means looking at how you spend your time hour by hour, not just in theory, but in reality. It's easy to say you're focused when you're actually scrolling your phone for just a minute every hour. Those minutes add up, they fracture your concentration and make it harder to get into deep work. The mind isn't built to instantly switch from distraction to intense focus. There's a transition period every time you come back to your tasks, so even small interruptions cost more than they seem. You have to treat your focus like it's gold. Once you give it away, you can't just snap it back instantly. Negative energy is tricky because it's not always external. Some of it lives inside you in the form of doubts, fears, and limiting beliefs. You might have people around you who feed into those doubts, sometimes without meaning to. A friend who constantly points out why something won't work, a coworker who jokes about how obsessed you are with your goal, a family member who reminds you to be realistic. These voices can plant seeds of hesitation. You have to recognize them for what they are, energy drains. Not every opinion deserves your attention, especially if it's coming from someone who's not living the life you're trying to create. You also have to look at your physical environment. If your workspace is cluttered, if your home is filled with reminders of old habits you're trying to break, you fight an uphill battle every day. Your surroundings should push you towards your goal, not pull you away from it. That might mean clearing out the junk food from your kitchen, moving your desk to a place with fewer distractions, or even changing where you spend your time so you're not constantly tempted by old routines. The less friction there is between you and the actions you need to take, the easier it will be to stay consistent. Sometimes eliminating distractions means saying no to good things in order to make space for great things. This is where people struggle because not every distraction looks like a bad habit. It can be social events, side projects, or opportunities that don't align with your main goal, but still sound tempting. If you try to do everything, you dilute your focus. In a 6-month transformation, you don't have the luxury of scattering your energy. You need to go all in on a handful of actions that will make the biggest difference. That means you have to filter everything through the question, does this move me closer to my goal? If the answer is no, you have to be willing to let it go, at least for now. Negative energy often hides in relationships that feel familiar but aren't actually supportive. You might have friends or family members you've known for years who keep you anchored to the version of yourself you're trying to outgrow. They're used to you a certain way and your growth threatens that comfort. Sometimes it's subtle, little comments, inside jokes, or habits they want you to keep because it makes them feel more secure. Other times it's direct, they might outright tell you you're changing too much or too fast. The reality is, if they can't respect your path, you have to limit your exposure to them during this critical period. That doesn't mean cutting everyone off in anger. It means adjusting how much influence they have over your mindset. Technology is another major source of distraction. Social media, news feeds, endless notifications, they're designed to keep you hooked. You have to decide if your phone is a tool or a trap. In a 6-month transformation, you don't have time to lose hours in digital noise. That might mean turning off notifications, deleting certain apps, or setting specific windows of time when you allow yourself to check them. It's not about never relaxing. It's about not letting your focus leak away in ways that leave you with nothing to show for it. The mental space you create by removing distractions is just as important as the time you free up. When you're constantly bombarded with input, whether it's messages, news, or opinions, you don't leave room for your own thoughts to grow. A major part of transformation is developing the clarity to hear your own voice above the noise. That only happens when you intentionally reduce the amount of unnecessary input coming in. You have to give your mind the breathing room to process, reflect, and stay locked on the vision you've set. Another element of removing distractions and negative energy is learning to spot energy leaks early. These are situations, habits, or conversations that leave you drained instead of motivated. You can usually feel the difference immediately. If every time you interact with a certain person you walk away feeling discouraged, that's a leak. If every time you just check a social feed, you lose 30 minutes in your focus, that's a leak. You can't plug all the leaks at once, but you can start with the biggest ones. Over time, your environment becomes more and more aligned with your goals. This process can feel isolating at first. When you start pulling away from distractions and low energy influences, you might feel like you're losing parts of your old life. That's true, but you're losing the parts that were holding you back. The empty space they leave isn't a loss. It's room for new, better influences to move in. You can fill that space with people who inspire you, habits that energize you, and environments that make it easier to win. This shift doesn't happen overnight, but the sooner you start clearing out the clutter, the sooner you'll feel the benefits. The key is to remember that every distraction you remove and every negative influence you distance yourself from is an investment in your focus. Focus is the currency of transformation. Without it, even the best strategies and hardest work won't lead to the results you want in 6 months. With it, you can make progress at a speed that surprises you, and you'll look back wondering how you ever tolerated all the noise. Stacking small wins to create momentum is one of the most underrated strategies for a 6-month transformation. A lot of people believe they need one giant breakthrough to change their lives. But the truth is, change happens through a steady buildup of smaller victories. Each small win is like adding a brick to a wall. One by itself doesn't look like much, but when you keep stacking them day after day, you create something solid and undeniable. The real magic is that momentum doesn't just help you move faster, it makes it harder to stop. Once you get moving, it takes less energy to keep going, and success starts to feel natural instead of forced. The first thing to understand is that small wins aren't about lowering your standards. They're about breaking the journey into pieces you can consistently handle. If your goal is huge, starting a business, getting in peak shape, writing a book, it can feel overwhelming when you look at the whole thing at once. That's where most people quit before they even start. But when you focus on the next small, achievable step, you bypass the mental resistance. For example, instead of trying to write an entire book, you commit to writing 500 words today. Instead of trying to overhaul your diet overnight, you replace one bad meal a day with a healthy one. Each time you follow through, you create proof that you can execute, and that proof builds confidence. Confidence is the hidden fuel behind momentum. When you're starting out, you don't always have belief in yourself yet, and that can make action feel heavy. But every time you get a win, no matter how small, you give yourself evidence that you're capable. That evidence changes how you approach the next step. You attack it with more certainty. Over time, you stop doubting whether you can do it because you've built a track record that says you can. This is why small wins matter so much. They're the foundation that holds up bigger victories later. But the reason small wins are powerful is because they're easier to repeat. If the action you're trying to take is too big, it's easy to make excuses about why you can't do it today. But if it's something you know you can finish in a short, focused burst, it's harder to talk yourself out of it. That's how you get consistency. And consistency is the real driver of momentum, not random bursts of effort. If you think about it like pushing a car, the hardest part is getting it to move in the first place. Once it's rolling, you don't have to push as hard to keep it going. Small wins are the initial pushes that get you rolling. Momentum also changes your perspective on effort. At first, the work might feel like a grind because you're putting in a lot of energy without seeing big results yet. But as you stack more wins, the progress starts to compound. You realize the time you've been putting in isn't disappearing into thin air. It's building something. And when you can look back and see a streak of days where you took action, you feel a sense of pride that fuels you to keep going. Breaking a winning streak feels worse than just skipping a random day, so you're more likely to stay committed. This is why tracking your wins can be so powerful. It keeps the streak visible in your mind. One thing to watch out for is dismissing your small wins because they don't seem impressive enough. This is a trap. The size of the win doesn't matter as much as the act of winning itself. If you celebrate every forward step, you train your mind to seek progress instead of perfection. That shift in mindset is what keeps you moving during the inevitable tough days. On the days when you don't feel like doing anything, knowing that even a tiny step still counts keeps you from quitting entirely. The person who keeps showing up with small wins will always beat the person who waits for perfect conditions to make a big one. Small wins are also contagious. They spill over into other parts of your life. If you start your morning by knocking out one quick victory, you set the tone for the rest of the day. That's why some people talk about making their bed first thing in the morning. It's not about the bed. It's about starting the day with an immediate success. That energy carries into the next task, and before you know it, you've strung together multiple wins before lunch. The reverse is also true. Starting the day with delays and missed opportunities makes it harder to build momentum later. Another advantage of stacking small wins is that it makes big goals feel less risky. When you've already built a base of consistent progress, taking a bigger leap doesn't feel like you're gambling everything. You're building on top of something solid. For example, if you've been making steady improvements to your fitness for months, signing up for a race or competition feels exciting instead of terrifying. You know you've done the work to back it up. This is the quiet power of momentum. It makes big moves feel like a natural next step instead of a desperate gamble. Small wins also act as checkpoints that help you adjust your course. When you're working on a 6-month plan, it's easy to assume you'll move in a straight line, but in reality, you'll need to make adjustments along the way. By breaking the journey into smaller steps, you give yourself more opportunities to stop, evaluate, and correct your direction before you drift too far off track. If something isn't working, you can change it without losing months of effort. Without those checkpoints, you might not realize you're heading in the wrong direction until it's too late. The mental shift that comes from stacking small wins is maybe the most valuable part of the process. You start to see yourself as someone who follows through. That identity shift is huge because once you believe that's who you are, you act in alignment with it automatically. You don't have to convince yourself to keep going. You do it because it's what you do. 6 months of stacking small wins will transform not just your circumstances, but your self-image. And once that changes, the results are much easier to sustain. This approach also protects you from burnout. If you try to go from 0 to 100 overnight, you can push so hard that you crash before you see real results. Small wins give you progress without exhausting all your resources at once. They allow you to build strength, skill, and endurance at a sustainable pace. Over time, you'll find you can handle bigger and bigger actions without feeling overwhelmed because you've trained yourself to show up consistently. The thing about momentum is that it works both ways. If you let small failures pile up, skipping a day, then another, you build negative momentum that's just as real as the positive kind. That's why protecting your streak of wins is so important. You don't have to be perfect, but you do have to avoid letting one misstep turn into a slide backward. When you do slip, the key is to get a win as soon as possible to restart the forward motion. In a 6 months transformation, the person who masters small wins will always outpace the person chasing instant results. Momentum is built one action at a time, and each one you stack makes it harder for doubt, distraction, and hesitation to slow you down. Before long, the wins you once thought were small will be your new normal, and you'll be aiming at bigger targets with the same steady confidence. That's how the compound effect of small wins turns a plan into a reality. Staying adaptable and betting on yourself is about understanding that the path you set at the start of your 6-month transformation will not look exactly the same by the time you reach the finish line. You can create the most detailed plan in the world, but life has a way of throwing unexpected challenges and opportunities your way. The people who succeed are not the ones who stick rigidly to the original version of the plan, no matter what. They're the ones who stay committed to the destination, but flexible in the route they take to get there. Adaptability is the ability to adjust without losing momentum, to pivot when needed without losing sight of the end goal. It's knowing that the commitment to your growth stays the same even if the strategy changes. When you set out to transform your life, you start with the information and resources you had in that moment. Over time, you'll learn more, develop new skills, and gain new insights. What worked in the first month might not be the most efficient approach by the 3rd month. Being adaptable means you're willing to take that new information and refine your strategy instead of stubbornly sticking to something that's no longer working. It's about being honest with yourself about what's producing results and what's just keeping you busy. Some people get trapped in repeating the same actions because they feel familiar, even if those actions aren't moving them forward anymore. Flexibility allows you to upgrade your methods without losing the discipline you've built. Betting on yourself is the mindset that fuels adaptability. It's the belief that no matter what changes come, you have the resourcefulness to figure it out. This confidence doesn't come from blind optimism. It comes from building a track record of following through and solving problems as they come. When you bet on yourself, you stop waiting for the perfect conditions, the perfect timing, or someone else to give you permission. You trust that you can handle the uncertainty, that you can learn what you don't know yet, and that you can recover from setbacks. This mindset is what allows you to take calculated risks when opportunities arise instead of letting fear talk you into staying still. Setbacks are inevitable in any transformation, and they're where adaptability shows its value. You might get injured halfway through a fitness plan, lose a client in your business, or face a personal challenge that takes up more time than you expected. If you're rigid, These disruptions can feel like the end of your progress, but if you're adaptable, you look for another way forward. If you can't run, maybe you can swim. If a client cancels, maybe it's time to focus on marketing to bring in 2 more. The key is to keep moving towards your target, even if the pace or method changes. Adaptability doesn't mean you lower your standards. It means you find another way to hit them. There's also a proactive side to adaptability. It's not just about reacting to problems. It's about scanning your environment and adjusting before a small issue becomes a major obstacle. This requires staying aware of trends, feedback, and results. For example, if you notice that your energy levels drop every afternoon, you might shift your hardest work to the morning instead of pushing through in a constant slump. If you see a faster way to achieve part of your goal, you're willing to test it instead of assuming your first idea was the best one. Being adaptable means you're not emotionally attached to any single tactic. You're attached to the outcome, and you'll use whatever legitimate approach gets you there faster and better. Betting on yourself also means investing in yourself even when it feels risky. This could be putting time into learning a new skill that will pay off later, or spending money on tools, education, or mentorship that will accelerate your progress. People who don't bet on themselves hesitate to make these investments because they're afraid they won't follow through or that it won't work. But when you truly believe in your ability to execute, you see these as smart moves rather than gamble. That belief gives you the courage to step into situations where success isn't guaranteed, but growth is. Adaptability and self-belief work together in a feedback loop. When you adapt successfully to a challenge, you build confidence in your ability to handle the next one. That confidence makes you more willing to try new approaches, which in turn increases your chances of finding a better way forward. Over time, you develop a kind of mental toughness that doesn't rely on everything going perfectly. You stop needing the path to be smooth because you've proven to yourself that you can walk it, even when it's rough. This mindset also changes how you see failure. Instead of treating it as a dead end, you see it as a data. If something doesn't work, you analyze why, adjust, and try again with a smarter approach. Failure becomes part of the process instead of something to be avoided at all costs. That shift is what keeps you from quitting halfway through the transformation. Most people give up because they hit an obstacle they didn't expect and assume it means they're not cut out for the goal. When you're adaptable and betting on yourself, you see that obstacle as a challenge to overcome, not a verdict on your potential. Another part of betting on yourself is trusting your instincts. During a transformation, you'll get advice from all directions, some helpful, some not. Adaptability doesn't mean blindly following every suggestion you hear. It means listening, evaluating, and making the final call based on what aligns with your vision and values. This requires self-awareness and the willingness to stand by your decisions, even if others don't agree. You can respect other perspectives without letting them derail your focus. Being adaptable also protects you from the trap of perfectionism. If you're too focused on sticking to the exact plan you started with, you can waste time trying to make every detail perfect instead of making progress. Adaptable people understand that action beats perfection and that you can improve as you go. They're willing to make quick adjustments instead of getting stuck in endless planning. This allows them to move faster and learn more in the same amount of time. In the 6-month transformation, there will be moments when you're tempted to slow down because the road ahead looks uncertain. This is when betting on yourself matters most. You remind yourself that you've handled every challenge up to this point, that you've adapted every time you needed to, and that you're capable of figuring out whatever comes next. This inner trust keeps you moving forward when other people will stall out. Adaptability also allows you to seize unexpected opportunities. Sometimes something comes along that wasn't part of your original plan but could accelerate your progress dramatically. If you're too rigid, you might ignore it because it doesn't fit the script you wrote at the start. But when you trust yourself to pivot effectively, you can take advantage of these moments without losing your direction. These opportunities often become turning points in the transformation because they open doors you didn't even know existed when you began. Ultimately, staying adaptable and betting on yourself ensures that no matter how unpredictable the next 6 months are, you're always in motion toward your goal. You're not thrown off course by every change in circumstances because you've built the ability to adjust. You're not paralyzed by uncertainty because you've built the belief that you can handle it. Together, these qualities create a kind of resilience that's rare but powerful. The kind that allows you to not just survive challenges, but use them to your advantage. When you live by this approach, you stop fearing the unknown and start seeing it as another part of the game you've already decided you're going to win. 6 months might sound short, but it's long enough to completely redefine who you are and how you live. If you move with purpose, you've seen the blueprint. Define exactly where you're going and work backward until you have a clear daily plan. Lock in a routine that's unshakable. Cut out the noise, the distractions, and the energy that pulls you off course. Stack small wins every single day until momentum is carrying you forward. Stay adaptable when life shifts and bet on yourself no matter how uncertain it gets. This isn't about waiting for perfect timing. It's about creating the conditions where progress is unavoidable. Every day from now until 6 months from now is a brick. Lay each one with intention and you build something you can stand on for the rest of your life. The truth is, most people will hear this and go back to business as usual. But you have a choice. You can let another half year slip away, or you can decide that this is the chapter where everything changes. 6 months from now, you'll either be glad you started today or wish you had. The decision is yours.
Still tired, dude? Still sleepy? Mm-hmm. What's up, Dada? Baby? You still a little tired? Funny as hell. My little brother was just watching all the Rockies back to back the other day. I need to go back and watch them. You just seen like 1 through 4?
Not the last couple of ones.
Yeah. You seen like the first couple of them? Hey man, you out there? Oh, I think the bus is turning. Oh, yeah, what's the name? I mean, they text me at 2:45. They be coming right at 2:45, so they had text me. The app, no, the app. They text me when the bus comes, so they just sent a little notification. But she just asked if I already got them off. I don't know why if she was asking for a reason. Hopefully somebody was out there though. I mean, you ain't gotta call her if you pulling up, man. She don't know though. That's what I'm telling you. She texting me like she don't know. You get what I'm saying? She asking me, did I get that? So that's what I'm saying. She ain't gonna be able to tell you if nobody got it. She asking me if I got it. That's the bottom. Hello? Yeah, why you asked if I had already got them? Huh?
My bad. I thought you oh, no, I didn't see him on the bus.
Alright.
How far are you?
My mom said she pulling up.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, peace out.
You gotta go, mama? You wanna call her back and say what's up? Okay, hold up. What's up, baby? Hey, baby. I told you she was. What's up, dude? Bria. I was calling you because he was trying to talk to you, but I told you my mama out there, so you could have just left the garage open. She said she was 1 minute away. Yeah, when you was on the phone, he just kept trying to say hey, but I had hung up already.
Oh, hey man, I miss you. Yeah, I miss you so much.
You want to stand up for a little bit, brother? Are you good? What's up, Blake?
She got the message you sent her.
Oh, you got it? You know what that say? What she tell you it said? You forgot?
Your hair look really cute. She said, change out of her uniform and put on a cute outfit. But cute outfit, Blake,
How you
hot.
feeling?
Yeah. Something, because we about to be outside, so it needs to be like air friendly. No.
What y'all was about to do?
We're about to go to a R&B festival.
On the Wednesday?
Yeah. Today. Right now.
I don't
It's
know.
about to be Carl Thomas and Raheem Devine and Kiki White. I'm like extra excited, you know? I like that kind of stuff.
What, you trying to give her a hug, dude?
Love you.
You wanna give her a kiss?
I can see that you miss me in those eyes.
This nigga just woke
You're
up.
saucy.
He just woke up from a nap. That ain't what the eyes saying.
That's what they saying. Look, that's why you fake closing your eyes because I can't come get you. It's okay. You see me soon. I wish I had baby skin. This nose is healing up so quickly.
Why the hell she said she was 1 minute away and she's still right there?
I don't know. I didn't lock her or nothing, so she can call me.
No, I didn't think you was out there, so I told her she ain't need to because she said she was about to, but then when you sent me that text, I said you wasn't out there, so you ain't know. You know what I'm saying?
I know.
Huh.
It says, I love your choice from Dad. That was so sweet. You gotta know how to read this one. You know love.
And
I love you.
yeah, you know that,
You know
that's
your
easy.
name. Take that outside for me, girl.
Sleepy, Dada?
Yes, you do.
You still tired? Did you see yours, Marzi? That's a spider egg. Did you see your note?
And I said, take it outside. She gonna say, but I don't have to. Look, I'm gonna have some lip gloss. Well, it's not. It's not as glossy as lip gloss, but y'all need to keep it in your book bag.
I just know how it be sometimes just to stretch for real.
Right.
Yeah, which is just there. Close the door.
Dada. You want a pillow to lean on and put that on top of?
Man, I put
Alright, for sure. Did how Mars eye looking? That's what I was trying to tell you before you got on your silly shit. Her face didn't look like that when she went to school that day. So when the teacher said something, that was my first time seeing it.
Mm-hmm. Her teacher just showed me the picture of that. But the teacher, she had said that she was sending a picture, and then she got this little box and she could send her to the nurse, but they wouldn't be able to do nothing.
No, I got the same message. I got the same message, but I was asking you how her eye look right now that you looking at it. How do her face look?
Oh, it still looks the same. Which one? Okay.
Yeah, but it don't. It look like it could damn near be like some little heat bumps or something. It look like they could be like some little heat bumps or something. They don't even look like. What's her name?
I can't really tell from the picture if they went down or not. Hold on. Get out my car if you're missing my post. I'm trying to get it laminated.
Let me see. Nope, I just see them dry lips. Yeah, I kind of do, but that shadow just right there. That shadow just right there. Did you start on her? Did you start on her project, or you ain't get a chance to? Start on her project, or you ain't get a chance to?
No, I didn't get a chance to. But if you could do the box part, I'll do the rest.
I thought the box part was everything. What else she got to do besides the box?
I'm saying, like, put the paper on the box. I'll do the decorating and the Mars and all that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, you will. What's today's date? Oh, no, today's the 27th. It's the 29th. It's due the 29th, so it's okay.
Ask Choice. Ask Choice, did she cry the day after lunch?
Come on, watch out.
You hear
Did
me?
she cry when?
After lunch today.
Did you cry after lunch today, Choice? No.
Good job. That's 2 days in a row, baby. I think she good now.
Okay, your mom pulled up.
Okay, I think she good now. Huh, tell your mama bye.
Good.
Say bye-bye.
Love you, 40. Bye-bye. Thank
She
you.
trying to give a hug.
Alright, peace out.
Appreciate the follow, y'all. She went bye-bye, boy. Carter was handing. Over here working on this back piece, you know. My boy getting these wings on his back. On the scale from 1 to 10, or matter of fact, not even on the scale from 1 to 10. You did your chest, your whole chest on your last session. A lot of people say the chest one of their worst pieces. A lot of people say their back was one of the worst. They say where are you from? I was born in Ohio, but I've been in Atlanta since I was like 5, so Atlanta adopted me. I grew up on the south side. So I always hear like neck, hands, feet, and then chest and back, right? Next to ribs. But I kind of put the whole torso together when it comes to that. When you compare the chest that we did last session, bro, to your back now, which one you think? The back more intense?
Yeah.
Yeah. I could kind of like, I ain't been able to see your face, but just from your, like certain parts I can tell it's a little tense for you. Is it certain parts of the back that's worse than others?
The center and the down towards the ribs.
Okay, so down up here, over here.
Yeah.
Is the top when we was going to touch old stuff, was you feeling any of that?
Not the top.
Oh, okay.
Hello.
So tell me, you, what's happening? I'm over here on stream. Tell me, and my bad, I was just trying to ask her something real quick. No, you good, you good. I was just saying that because that's why I ain't say nothing when you just walked in. I wasn't trying to not acknowledge you. But when it comes to the lines versus the shade, and I ain't asked you on the chest, which one you well, we ain't really did a whole lot of shading on this. We've been doing most of the lines, but when I was working at first, could you tell that I was lining with a shading needle versus what I'm doing now?
Nah.
Oh, okay. Go ahead, Dada. You want to get down?
Yeah.
Okay. still tired, baby? Hey, baby, what's up? Offer that I shared. I feel like you about to say some silly ass shit, but go ahead.
What you doing now? Shaving?
No, I'm still doing line work. I'm about to start shaving in a little bit. School was cool.
I'm sorry. I zoned out. I was reading the title of his book on the phone.
I said school was straight.
Yeah, I had a good day. Did a lot of clients. Got a lot done.
Discord username so I can show you my recent work. Honestly, I ain't set none of this shit up. I ain't set my Twitch up or my Discord or none of that myself. Somebody else did. So I think my Discord name is Grandad 911. But if it ain't that, it might be Ink by D. I don't know. But you can't send it on Instagram. If you don't find that name on there, send it on Instagram. I for sure want to put something together. I need that. First thing first, I know I gotta update like my banner and all that. My brother W's in the chat for that boy Juice, man.
Sorry, can't even sit. Way over here. Beat up.
You just came from the spot?
Hell yeah.
For sure, huh? You trying to come this way?
I'm out. I'm straight. I was just peeping what you was working.
That's one of them bunny papers.
Mm-hmm.
You fucking with them?
Hell
Them
yeah.
bitches smooth, ain't they? I swear to God.
I said, damn, I wish he had some more than
Man,
big
listen.
man.
Shout out to bunnies, man.
Shout out to bunnies.
Shout out to my boy Dan Woods, bro. Name I can't think of his name right now.
Yeah, I got him on IG.
Yeah, I know his name. I just can't think of it right now.
Yeah.
But the brand name more important than
Yup,
anything.
them
Shout out to
bunnies.
Bunnies Papers, man.
Things
If y'all
smoking.
see some papers in the store, they blue. Show them that your doobie real quick. That's what it look like. Blue paper like that. Called Bunnies. That motherfucker smoking. What they
Smoking.
say?
Let's say.
Oh, a whole bunch. Hardboard. They tell us
Okay.
they Discord name.
Okay.
But yeah, I don't know my Discord name. But if you find mine, send me some stuff. You said you were just at the spot.
Hell yeah. Oh, they been cooking my and then cooked some spaghetti and shit and then left the damn plate, bro. When I was at, yo.
No.
I'm talking about a good ass plate.
What you do different? What you feel like you do different with your spaghetti that another motherfucker might not do?
Shit, that bay leaf. And then
Bay
sauce.
leaf?
Yeah, cause I make my sauce now.
You real raw bay leaves? You
I
put
it
it
in the
inside,
sauce.
yeah.
And I take that motherfucker out before I drop the meat in that motherfucker.
Yeah. You put your noodles and your meat together? Or you eat them separate? It depends on how you feel.
It depends on how I feel that day.
Yeah.
It depends on how I feel that day. 9 times out of 10, I'm gonna have them bitches separated.
You ever heard of somebody putting ketchup in the spaghetti
Hell
sauce?
Hell yeah, man! I done seen so many crazy
I ain't
recipes.
gonna lie, that's the
bro.
one.
Yeah, folks know how everybody got their custom way of doing stuff, but ain't nothing wrong. Baby Snoop, that bro, IG.
Yeah, Snoop. Yeah, Snoop.
Yo.
Yeah, shout out that boy Snoop and the Bunnies brand,
Real
man.
bunnies, man.
Yeah, bro, cool as hell too. I gotta get some more. Like I just really shout him out on my story.
Word. Yeah, man.
Freestyle
Snoop, you gotta
and
come
everything.
through with us about like 20 packs of the long papers, bro. We need a
Yes,
box.
sir. Yes, sir.
We need the box.
Trying to go brand ambassador,
You
man.
feel me?
No bullshit.
Yeah, go put this shit down.
Alright, bet. Alright, chat. I think I done gave y'all my Instagram username is at the top of the screen, bro. INKBYDEE. Ink by D. But I'm finna get off here, y'all. I think I've been on here for a couple hours. I'll probably tap back in when I get closer to the end of his session. Appreciate everybody fucking with me and tuning in. We gone.